Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Cabbage Head Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Looks Can Kill Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Prologue, A Quirk's Terror. At the age of 7, young Izuku played around with his all-might figurine, making him fly and crush the bad guys. Die, vegetables. No more evil doing for you, the boy giggled, beaming. Izuku, don't play with your food, that's bad manners, his mother, Inko, scolded him, grabbing his figurine and laying it on the black leather sofa. You better eat all your veggies up. We have an appointment with the doctor today, we'll get to see what quirk you'll get. She smiled, ruffling the young boy's hair. I want to have a quirk like Dad's. You mean fire-breathing? It's such a destructive quirk. No, Mommy. His other quirk. He made a person's quirk disappear. The boy smiled innocently, and his mother's eyes widened. Why would you want that, sweet pea? Inko asked, surprised. How did he know? 'Cause I can make the bad guys' quirks go away. They won't have to do bad anymore. Izuku's eyes shone with excitement. I see. Honey, but Dad's quirk is rare, okay? You also shouldn't go around saying what his quirk is. Do you get me? She pulled a forced smile. Yes, Mom. He grinned, hesitantly finishing his plate. The mother and son held hands while walking to the clinic. She was nervous, and her son was still busy playing with his figurine. Once they arrived, they had to wait patiently while other kids were informed about their quirks from the other side of the door. After a few minutes, they heard their surname. Midoriya? You're up next, please go inside, the nurse smiled, holding her clipboard. As they went inside, Izuku had to sit while Inko chatted with the doctor. I'll run a few x-rays on him and a couple of tests. Please take a seat, Ms. Midoriya, the doctor said, pushing his glasses up. Inko watched her son and patiently waited for the results. It is confirmed that your son has a quirk, yet there's no telling when it'll appear. He's showing signs of it, but it's still too early to identify what his quirk might be, the doctor explained, looking through his computer and a few freshly printed documents. Mommy, I have a quirk. I can be like All Might, right? The boy smiled while his mother nodded at him. Thank you so much, doctor. We'll come back. Inko grinned. The doctor waved at them while flipping through his documents. When they left, he mumbled a surprising remark. His eyes are peculiar. I can't identify what it is about them. After a few weeks, Izuku learned that his friend had gotten a quirk. That's so cool, Kaken. Izuku beamed. Ain't it? Definitely better than anyone else's, the blonde boy chortled, lighting off little explosions. Can you write about it in your hero analysis book? We can study it together. Izuku's friend added, feeling excited. Of course, Kaken. Let's see how cool it is. The green-haired boy jumped up and down. I wonder when I'll get mine. He drooped. You'll get it soon. Didn't the doctor say it might appear sooner or later? Just wait for it, it will come, his friend, Katsuki, grinned. As school ended, the two friends bid their farewells. Izuku walked on the gray road, humming to a random song. He saw a cute cat and smiled at it with closed eyes. Once he opened them, the cat suddenly froze, as if it had become a statue. Meow meow? Izuku poked the cat as it toppled over. His eyes widened as he gently hoisted the cat, running home to inform his mom. Mom! Izuku was on the verge of tears when his mom arrived. He looked down, avoiding eye contact. What is it, sweet pea? Why do you sound so distressed? His mother tilted her head and noticed the cat. A kitten? Is it asleep? I killed it, Mommy. I opened my eyes, and it suddenly froze and fell. He sobbed, choking on his tears. Is it his quirk? We need to go now. Stay calm. Let's go drive to the clinic. She smiled as they got into the car. Put on this BLNDFLD for Mommy, okay? Inko handed him a black BLNDFLD. Okay. Izuku sniffled as he began to tie it around his head, no longer able to see anything. Would this be the sight he would always have? Chapter 1. Darkness and a Little Pinch of Hope. As they arrived at the clinic, Inko held Izuku's arm. They were able to go inside quickly because there were few patients. Doctor, we're back, and it seems like Izuku's quirk manifested. Inko bit her lip, gripping the boy's arm tightly. I assume it has something to do with his eyes. He is blindfolded. The doctor mumbled the last part. Inko explained what Izuku had told her, making the doctor scribble down notes. So the cat died? When he looked at it, he mumbled, confirming. I'm certain this is because of the quirk he manifested. If what you're saying is true, then his quirk is rather deadly. The doctor held his chin thoughtfully. With my notes, there's a possibility that your child's quirk can freeze a living thing's molecules just by looking at them. Meaning, his gaze could be fatal. It's similar to being frozen in ice. If he looked at a person, their cells would rupture, leading to death. He explained. Using a BLNDFLD seems like the safest option. Sorry, kiddo, looks like you have to keep it on for a while longer. The local doctor ruffled Izuku's hair, who had been quiet all this time. But how can I be a hero if I can't see? The boy tilted his head, frowning. You can try, kid. I'll be rooting for you. The doctor smiled, readjusting his glasses. I hope you do. I wouldn't want a kid with a dangerous quirk like you to end up being a villain. I'm sorry, Izuku. His mother's tears began streaming down. Will I always have to see black? The young boy tilted his head, still feeling the soft fabric against his skin. We'll try to work it out, Izuku. I promise, okay? Inko smiled. Okay. Izuku smiled back. Promises never last, were they always meant to be broken? At least that's what the young Izuku thought as he was left in the forest. They were supposed to go on a picnic together, mother-son bonding time. His mom just forgot the milk, so she had to drive back. She'll come back, right? Izuku waited, and waited. He awaited her arrival for months, years even, until his food supply was cut short. The lost soul wandered around the thick forest. It seemed like there was no way out. The checkered blanket was already dirty, covered with soil. Just as he was about to lose hope, he heard two ladies chattering in cat-themed outfits. Will it be okay to ask for help? The young boy thought, inching ever so slightly closer to the two. Excuse me? Do you happen to have some leftovers? He emerged, looking worn out with a few scratches and soiled clothes. How did you get so roughed up? The burgundy-haired pro-hero asked worriedly. I've been in this forest for a long time, he said, tilting his head as his stomach growled. Come with us, we'll let you eat. The blonde one smiled, ushering the boy to come with them. It was the best decision he ever made. Chapter 2, Dimly Lit Hope. The two pro-heroes introduced themselves as members of the Wild Wild Pussycats, along with two more members named Ragdoll and Tiger. The boy felt a little less lonely. He was very grateful they took him in and offered him a place to stay. Hey, Izuku, don't stay out for too long. Tiger, better keep an eye on him. The red-headed pro-hero Mandalay shouted, continuing to be a motherly figure to the young boy. Their banter continued for several months, closer to a year even. Izuku grew closest to both Mandalay and Ragdoll, who became more like an aunt to him. Of course, the question of why he was blindfolded didn't escape them. Before they tried to take it off, Izuku warned them that it wouldn't be safe. Tiger was always his personal bodyguard whenever he wanted to go outside, but he was never allowed to go far due to his disability, even with the pro-hero around. Their peace was abruptly interrupted by a huge explosion that covered their training grounds. All four members suddenly became alert, protecting the 7.5-year-old boy. What's happening? Izuku asked, dumbfounded by the loud sound that occupied most of his thoughts. He poked Tiger with the handmade cane the four had made for him. Villains, Izuku. Tiger replied in a hushed tone, as they all tried to comprehend where the intruders were coming from. Suddenly, the three saw a silver bullet pass through Ragdoll's head. Ragdoll! Mandalay screamed at the soon-to-be lifeless body, whose head was gushing blood. Tomo-san. Izuku tilted his head. Why? He raised his voice, trying to be heard. I'm getting a bit sleepy, Izukun. Ragdoll managed to cough out. Sleep? But it's so loud. Izuku reasoned, turning to where the sound of her voice was coming from. Where are those intruders? Pixie Bob muttered under her breath, shakily turning away from Ragdoll's body. Mandalay, get Izuku inside. Tiger shouted as Mandalay took the young boy's hand and ran. The two held on to hope as they ran, the ground sinking beneath their feet. Pixie Bob created an abundance of earth beasts. They didn't want to be outnumbered. They all heard another lightning-fast gunshot, which targeted one of them. The bullet curved and went past the earth beasts, directly hitting Mandalay in the stomach, making her drop to the ground. Saki-san. Shock passed through the pro-heroes as Mandalay fell, activating her quirk at the last moment. Sorry guys, have fun cooking without me. She joked before collapsing. No more cooking? Saki. Izuku was cut off when it felt like he had been caught in a marble. The two living pro-heroes ran to where the marble was, but it was soon taken by a man in a mustard yellow coat. Target acquired, Mr. Compress out. He chuckled before stepping into a dark hole. Tiger and Pixie Bob were overwhelmed with a mix of emotions. It felt as if the chaos of bullets and explosions had suddenly ceased. What just happened? They wondered, grappling with the shock, sadness, and grief that washed over them. They felt as though they had lost family members, despite only being together for 10 months. What did they want with Mito-chin? Pixie Bob sighed, having just informed a few fellow pro-heroes about the incident. My guess is as good as yours. It must have something to do with his quirk, Tiger concluded, his gaze fixed on the two lifeless bodies wrapped in blankets. It was dark, and for Izuku, it was always somber, but today felt especially dim. He heard incoherent whispers and murmurs that he couldn't fully comprehend, though he caught fragments. Son? Him. Here. Sokka-san? Ryuko? Tora? Tomo-chan? The whispers paused, then resumed like flies around a light. Who? What? Name? Quiet. Here. The chatter quieted as footsteps approached. My son. Fancy seeing you here, a voice chuckled darkly. Papa? Izuku smiled, his eyes shining beneath his blndfld. He recognized his father's voice instantly. Where were you? I missed you. I came to save you from that horrible mother of yours. She left you all alone, right? Hisashi said, his tone suggesting a smile. She did. A pang of sadness hit Izuku. Come now, little Izuku. Papa has a room for you here. Hisashi extended a hand, but Izuku hesitated, unsure due to his blindness. Where is it? Izuku asked. What about Sokka-san? Is she not going to cook for me anymore? Where's Tora? They traveled. Pro-heroes are busy after all, Hisashi reasoned, and Izuku accepted this without question. What am I going to do here, Papa? Izuku inquired, noticing he didn't have his cane. Just a few experiments here and there. I hope you don't mind, Hisashi replied, his tone more commanding than inviting. Will they hurt? Izuku tilted his head, fidgeting with his fingers. Well, just a little bit, but you're a big boy now, right, Izuku? Hisashi asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. Yeah, I am, Izuku chortled, pumping his fist in the air, careful not to hit anyone. Sensei, who's that? A raspy voice asked, sounding like a teenager. Tamura. This is my son, Izuku. Izuku, meet my student, Tamura Shigaraki, Hisashi introduced them. Hi. Izuku extended his hand toward where he thought the teen was, surprisingly accurate. I don't think that's a good idea, unless you're asking for trouble, Shigaraki snickered. Oh, I see. Sorry, Izuku stammered, pulling his hand back. Mr. Compress, take the boy to an extra room, Shigaraki said, using air quotes. Yes, sir. Come with me, boy, Mr. Compress said, grabbing Izuku's wrist. Let me show you your brand new room, you're going to love it. Izuku felt robbed of his own opinions and choices, worse than being in prison. The feeling weighed heavily on his mind, making him unable to rebel. His first experience of light was harsh, filled with white lab coats and shiny goggles. They had tried to take away his sight multiple times, but their attempts ended in failure. He preferred the time spent with the pro-heroes, unaware that two of his closest allies had died. Despite his efforts to resist, they proved futile. After countless experiments, All for one grew bored and decided to pursue something more productive. Izuku no longer wanted to see or hear his father. Despair consumed him as he realized what Hisashi had planned. In his mind, a soothing voice guided him, on your left, to your right, behind you. It felt like the best friend he never had. Izuku would have preferred any quirk over the one that had stolen his ability to see the beauty of the world. He had found a companion in the black, flexible mist that others saw as mere shadows, but to Izuku, it was a friend. He didn't know that this was his reward for being a big boy. But at what cost? Why would he give him this? What would he have to do in order to keep his friend? It seems your little friend is helping you fight, Izuku. Isn't that great? Hisashi smirked, clearly planning something. Izuku nodded, sensing that Shigaraki was getting tired, his breathing heavy. Now that you have a quirk that can help you, do your dad a favor, all right? Here was the favor. What is it? Izuku asked, his voice devoid of emotion. Well, I intend to use your original quirk. Since Daddy can't borrow it, you have to do it yourself. Hisashi smiled. You mean, hurt them? The young boy's voice wavered, which Hisashi didn't like. Why is your voice wavering? Didn't you hurt people already? What's the difference? Hisashi bombarded him with questions that Izuku couldn't answer. He stayed quiet, deriving no answers from his father's inquiries. It seems like I made myself clear. Excellent. Our young boy has two quirks, his original one and one given by his dad, all for one. First quirk, looks can kill, the ability to freeze a person's blood vessels, making it impossible for the target's blood cells to survive with just a single look. Drawbacks include irritated eyes and inheriting habits from those he has harmed. Second quirk, Phantom Friend, a quirk with its own mind, similar to a physical shadow. When using it, Izuku can communicate mentally with his quirk. It has a malleable black form and can protect and attack by hardening, sharpening, or turning into liquid. Pose. Include constant muttering and, if overused, temporary insanity, similar to being possessed, with no recollection of what happened during that time. Chapter 5. A tiresome request and someone new. Please. Have mercy. I'll do anything you ask, please don't. His lifeless form sprawled on the cold cement floor, his eyes losing life. Izuku was exhausted, his eyes sore and itchy from overusing his quirk hours ago, but he had no right to rebel. He scratched his eyes again, unsure if it was a habit he had developed or if it was the boy's own habit. The man had told him to go back to his room, which Izuku happily complied with. Sleep was something he could look forward to, as long as it wasn't a nightmare. Izuku plopped himself onto the crisp mattress, which he had begrudgingly grown accustomed to. He had no choice. The smell of gunpowder and tree bark filled his senses, and he realized his food supply was dwindling. He suddenly found himself in an alleyway, much like the one where the cat was. It was dreary and somewhat depressing, the world devoid of color. The place was quiet. He could see everything without someone suffering due to his gaze. Izuku's breath hitched as he witnessed a horrifying sight. The man's eyes rolled back as he fell to the ground, his life ending in an instant. His quirk didn't kill instantly, it knocked out the target and stopped the oxygen flow, ultimately halting the heart. He didn't want to do this anymore. Izuku longed for the time before he had a quirk. Maybe things would have been better if he hadn't gotten one. Hey, you wouldn't have met me then. The black mist stood in front of him, unaffected by his quirk. He remembered that the only friend who helped him through this time was them. Come to think of it, Izuku never gave them a name. Kurita Kiseki, Kaki, a borrowed miracle that brought light to his dark world. Maybe this wasn't a nightmare after all. Izuku woke up, a little tired but better than most awakenings. He quietly and carefully took in his surroundings. He felt the presence of the black mist, identical to Kaki. Kurajiri, breakfast? He asked briefly, not wanting to disturb the cooking mist. Ham and egg, Mido-kun, the mist replied with a smile he couldn't see. Izuku nodded. That reminds me, I think we'll be expecting a new member. He's around the same age as Shigaraki, Kurajiri informed him. Really? Will he be my new training partner too? I'm not sure, it all depends on Izuku heard the plate clink and immediately grabbed it, gobbling down the food. I don't think MSTR will have anyone coming other than that boy, so today will be quite nice, Kurogiri added. That's nice, Izuku thought. Just as he finished his breakfast, the door creaked loudly. Dabi, you probably heard of my arrival. Chapter 6, Hope in the Form of a Villain. A teen with scars covering his body entered the rundown bar, catching the attention of the black-suited mist. Yes, we've heard of your arrival. Quite surprising that you're the same age as Shigaraki, Kurogiri said as he prepared a glass of water. Take a seat. The man called Dabi took the chair next to a young boy who had stopped eating and was now drinking some milk. Dabi noticed the BLD the boy wore and wondered, why does he have such a thing? He reached for the BLNDFLD but was quickly stopped by a dimmer mist. What happened, Kaki? Izuku mumbled to himself, sounding strange to Dabi. His quiet mutterings continued until he turned to his right, surprising the scarred male. Sorry about that. It's not safe to take my BFLD off, the green-haired boy said, his voice clearer now. Oh, sorry. My bad, Dabi replied, scratching the back of his head as he continued to drink his water. Shigaraki, you broke the doorknob again. How am I supposed to pee in peace? A voice shouted, sounding like Mr. Compress. Huh? How should I know? It's not my fault I don't pay attention when I just woke up. Shigaraki argued, his voice growing louder as he approached. Kurogiri, food? Shigaraki asked as he plopped down a seat away from the blindfolded boy. The dark mist handed him a plate, the same food Izuku had. Before he began eating, Shigaraki glanced at Dabi. Is that who Sensei talked about? What if he's a spy for the pro-heroes? Seriously, you guys are too naive. He fell silent after that, grumbling occasionally. Izuku stood up. I'm going to my room to ask father if he's going to be my training partner. He requested a favor before the dim mist transformed into a cane, guiding him to his room. Once inside, Izuku asked Kaki to observe Dabi. He wanted someone other than the dangerous teen who could easily overpower him. Kaki transformed into a small black ball and passed through the wall, leaving Izuku to record his observations in a small device. He relied on Kaki's insights since the mist had become his eyes after gaining his quirk. Villain analysis for the future, Dabi. A teen with large burn scars all over his body, seems to have a fire quirk. Other details are unknown, including his real name. Izuku stopped the recorder with a sigh, this being the shortest entry yet. He was eager to learn more about Dabi. He wondered what Kaki was discovering now. Kaki roamed around and soon spotted the dark purple-scarred teen walking with Kurogiri, who teleported them using a black hole. Kaki followed unnoticed. They arrived at a room where a suited man sat with a smile. Ah, Dabi, welcome to the League of Villains. The leader is a blue-haired man. I'm sure you've seen him, he said, glancing at Kaki, who he seemed to notice but ignored. You will be Izuku's training partner, as you are still a newbie. This will benefit both of you, your abilities will enhance, and he will get used to fighting with a BLNDFLD. Why does he have that on? Dabi asked, his curiosity piqued. Well, I'm surprised you haven't figured it out yet. It's related to his quirk. The boy can harm living things, no matter their size or strength, the man stated proudly, as if he had created Izuku himself. What's with the black thing I saw earlier? Is that someone else's? Dabi pressed for more information about his training partner. Huh? No, that's a quirk I have him use. I'm sure you've heard of my quirk, right? The man sneered, speaking as if to a curious child. Dabi nodded, suppressing further questions. We will be going now, MSTR. I'll guide him to one of the rooms, Kurogiri said with a bow. One of the rooms? How about making the two share one? I'm sure my boy is lonely. He usually doesn't talk to anyone but you, Kurogiri, the man reasoned, clearly planning something. I'm sure that's okay with Dabi, am I right? He asked, more as a command than a question. Yes, that's fine, Dabi replied, feeling an unfamiliar sense of unease. Good, you can go now. I'm sure my boy is waiting. He made a shooing gesture as Kurogiri opened the black hole, with Dabi following and Kaki entering unnoticed. Izuku sensed Kaki's presence return to the building. He was eager for updates but instead found two figures entering his room. Izuku, It seems like you're sharing a room with Dabi. MSTR also told me he's going to be your training partner. Shigaraki will be getting more missions from him now that Dabi can fill in, Kurogiri explained. It was now deemed unnecessary for Kaki to elaborate on what had transpired. Izuku remained still on the wooden chair. Okay, there's extra space on this side. You can put a bed there for him. Izuku pointed to his left, where a small pile of clothes sat, leaving an empty space. When Dabi arrived, things felt a little more peaceful. He often bombarded Izuku with questions, but Izuku did the same in return. They grew closer, acting more like brothers than training partners. Dabi was a snarky and goofy teen, and Izuku was still amazed that this nice person was a villain. Each training session was exciting for both of them. They sparred while engaging in small conversations. Dabi usually informed Izuku of his movements as he executed them, which made it challenging for Izuku. However, he gradually grew accustomed to it, learning to predict Dabi's movements without needing constant guidance. Dabi became a part of Izuku's daily routine. He recorded their training sessions and noted how most of the doorknobs were disintegrated, likely due to the chaos of their training, and how all for one had repaired them. Izuku eventually shared his past with Dabi, which made Dabi feel a little guilty. The two pro-heroes Izuku mentioned were dead, a fact Dabi remembered seeing on TV, but he couldn't bring himself to tell Izuku. On the other hand, Izuku felt genuinely happy. Gaining another friend made him realize that maybe this whole situation wasn't so bad after all. It had been 2 years since Dabi arrived, and Izuku was unsure how old he was now, but that didn't matter as nothing would change. The goofy teen, now 18, had witnessed what Izuku's quirk could do when his father came and asked for a favor. It was a horrible sight, and Dabi could still remember the dull eyes he saw briefly from his friend, along with the regret in the man's eyes as he slid down on the floor. He couldn't fathom how such a nice kid could end up in the hands of a cruel manipulator. Dabi wasn't fond of heroes. Unlike Izuku, he didn't have pleasant experiences with them. All he could remember was the smell of his own fire, but now that Izuku was in the picture, he was rethinking his life choices and considering escaping with the young boy. Maybe, just maybe, it was just a fleeting thought after all. Aizawa scratched his stubble, begrudgingly working on a cold case. He was beyond annoyed. Why would they task him with such a hopeless file? The two surviving pro-heroes from the Wild Pussycats were desperate, even after several years. He looked at the file again, skimming a few parts. Case XX, name of specified person, Izuku Midoriya, relatives, Inko Midoriya, mother, currently missing, Hisashi Midoriya, father, abroad, yet no specified whereabouts. Aizawa read this part again. Tsukachi had told him they had to dig deep to find his father's name, along with his mother's. What was wrong with this family? First, they abandoned the child, and then they left no trace of their whereabouts? How troublesome. Aizawa thought to himself that he wasn't getting paid much for this. Was found in a forest by late pro-hero Mandalay and pro-hero Pixie Bob. Spent 10 months living with the 4 heroes from Wild Pussycats. After several months, reported by 2 surviving pro-heroes, was attacked by several villains. With a quirk that seemed to shoot out fast bullets, someone with a spatial quirk, as well as a man who trapped the missing child in a marble. A marble? What a bizarre quirk. What would they gain from kidnapping him? The heroes weren't informed of a ransom, so what was the motive? This was giving Aizawa a headache. He couldn't help but feel pity for the 2 pro-heroes who visited the station every day to ask if any leads had been found. They were the reason Aizawa was handed the case, as he was one of the closest heroes with free time. Leads, none found. He expected this case to have no leads. How could anyone find evidence for a kid who had been missing for 4 years, reappeared, and then disappeared again 10 months later? Aizawa closed the file and decided to go for a walk. He chanced upon a small bar and decided to have a few drinks. Once he got there, it was quiet and almost empty, apart from 2 boys who were chatting. The older one glanced at Aizawa, and they made eye contact before quickly looking away. He noticed the other kid whose back was turned, his hair resembling that boy from the file, but there was no way a kidnapped child would be just relaxing in a bar. He glanced at the bartender, who closely resembled what the 2 pro-heroes had described as someone with a teleporting quirk. Things were getting suspicious, and he was abruptly pulled from his thoughts when the older kid from earlier tapped his shoulder. "Hey, you're a pro hero, aren't you? Can you get me and Izuku out of here?" The green-haired kid, the teen with scars, muttered, the bartender nodding without seeming suspicious. With only the four of them present, it was a clear sign of escape. Aizawa was astonished. He wasn't imagining things. That green-headed kid was the one from the file. This was his chance. He immediately nodded and was about to leave when the bartender stopped them. "It would be suspicious if you went out. I'll teleport you to the nearest police station," the mist offered kindly. "And why would you do that?" Aizawa asked, eyeing him with suspicion. "I want the kid to live an honest life instead of rotting here. I'll take care of everything." "What? Can I finally leave? Does father know about this? Will he get angry?" The first words from the silent greenhead were all questions. One by one, the teen answered with yes, no, and maybes. Kurogiri bid them farewell as Aizawa silently thanked him. They entered the black mist, and just as promised, they arrived at the closest police station, which was conveniently the one Tsukachi was assigned to. To say he was astonished was an understatement. He was truly at a loss for words to see the underground pro-hero arrive from a black hole with a teen and that kid from the file. "Holy, how?" Tsukachi asked with wide eyes. Aizawa shrugged and muttered that it was by chance. The detective ushered the three inside and let them take a seat. "Aizawa, please explain," he said, glancing at the silent teens. "It's a short story, really. I definitely did not expect this to happen. At least it saves me from a headache," Aizawa yawned, soon explaining the delicate details of the fast-paced story. "Where will we go now?" Izuku asked, gaining the attention of the detective. It was still pitiful for the two to hear about his quirk from the pro-heroes he had been with before getting taken. In fact, they would surely be delighted to see the boy they wanted to find so much. "Well, considering how Eraserhead found you too, how about living with him?" Tsukachi smiled, unnoticed by the greenhead. Aizawa had a bizarre expression. "Excuse me? Isn't that all right? Your apartment can fit 2 more people. Haven't I crashed at your place before?" Tsukachi smirked, eyeing the two teens. With a bit of thought and hesitation, Aizawa silently agreed. "How about you too? Is that all right? We don't risk putting you in foster homes and letting those villains catch you." He smiled at the two bewildered teens. "Of course. Mr. Eraserhead is very nice to help us escape." Izuku beamed. "Great. We need to ask you two a few questions first, if you don't mind." The ink-haired detective grew serious. They had been ignoring this factor since Aizawa laid eyes on the green-headed boy. Dabi decided to speak up. "Is it about his BGLD?" His tone was hushed. He didn't want to seem rude. "No and yes. It would seem weird if we didn't ask," Tsukachi replied, rubbing his palms. "His quirk hasn't been registered, but when I asked around the neighborhood where Ms. Midoriya was last seen, I found a clinic that already knew about his quirk. It was quite easy to describe the boy, and I received information about his quirk soon after." "You never told me this. What's his quirk?" Aizawa asked, silently thanking another detective who handed him some coffee. "It's as you might expect. It's related to the BLNDFLD he's wearing." Tsukachi handed Aizawa the file. Soon he was reading each word, intrigued. Patient's name, Izuku Midoriya. Quirk, unidentified. Description of quirk, can kill or halt one's lifespan with a mere look. Hereditary? Unrelated to genes, no family has a quirk related to said patient. It didn't take long for Aizawa to read it. The file was short and simple with a few unnecessary details. The pro-hero raised an eyebrow, surprised at the quirk the boy had. It was suited for a villain, but as long as this individual didn't wish for a villainous path, Aizawa would do everything in his power to help the young boy become a certified hero. After the two asked the younger boy some questions, a certain pair of familiar pro-heroes entered and gave Izuku an unexpected hug. He couldn't see who it was, but it felt warm. It was a familiar warmth he had gotten used to but lost 2.5 years ago. Izuku was happy to have it back. Shigaraki was scratching his neck, feeling both enraged and betrayed. Why did the two closest to his age have to leave after spending 2 years training together? He was determined to get back at them. All for One had been informed of the situation and, surprisingly calm, sat in his chair with his hands meeting his chin. Kurogiri spoke first, apologizing for not anticipating the issue. "Fear not, I do not blame any of you. I guess my boy felt a little uncomfortable in this place, meant only for killing and torture," Hisashi sighed. "Sensei, that shouldn't be true. Didn't we train that brat?" "He should feel lucky we even did," Shigaraki scowled, envious of the calm demeanor of his mentor. All for One had high expectations for Izuku, beyond just his quirk. However, beneath the surface, All for One was displeased that his own son would leave the safe haven he provided. "But no matter," he smirked. "I'll be getting him back for sure." Izuku sneezed while holding the scarred male's hand as they made their way to Aizawa's flat. He felt anxious, but Kaki made him feel safe, along with his brother by heart, Dabi. "We're here," Aizawa yawned, fumbling with his keys before the door clicked open. Dabi guided Izuku into the unfamiliar apartment. "I have a few pet cats roaming around, so be careful not to step on one," Aizawa warned just as Izuku almost tripped over a cat, catching himself just in time. "Problem child can take a seat, I'll show you around so it won't be much of a hassle," Aizawa said, scratching his head while yawning. He made Izuku sit in a chair and began to tour Dabi around the medium-sized flat. Dabi whistled. "I didn't expect an underground hero to have such a nice place. Guess we scored." "Sure you did, now I have to take care of a problem child who can't see and a snarky teen in his rebellious phase," Aizawa groaned, showing them the room where they would be sleeping. "I have a bed and a futon. You guys can decide who sleeps where. Go make yourselves at home, but don't break anything or touch my stuff without permission." He left without waiting for a response. Dabi returned to the living room to find Izuku silently petting a cat. "Dabi? Are you finished with the tour?" Izuku asked, hoping Kaki wasn't causing trouble again. "Yup, let's go to our room. You'll be sleeping on the bed and I'll take the futon," Dabi said as Izuku stood up. "Huh? Is that all right with you?" "Thank you," Izuku mumbled as Dabi guided him to their room. They both hoped that this pro-hero would change their cruel fate. Izuku and Dabi had grown accustomed to the comfortable flat. Aizawa asked them to become his assistants in case they faced danger again and needed to use their quirks. After some persuasion, Izuku convinced Dabi to let him explore the city alone, with Kaki as his guide. As they walked, Izuku chose not to wear his BLNDFLD and instead kept his eyes shut, tempted to open them to see the world but not wanting unwanted attention or pity. Their peaceful stroll was interrupted by a muffled crash from a nearby alleyway. "To your right, 3 people," Kaki informed him. Kaki transformed into a cane, guiding Izuku toward the sound. They discovered 2 men cornering a lavender-haired kid, likely extorting money or bullying him. "Ha! Another kid, who's this your friend? Seems like another pathetic loser," one mocked, activating his water quirk. "Stop. He's just a bystander," the lavender-haired boy yelled. "It seems like he has no will to fight." "What a weakling," the other sneered. As the water quirk was unleashed, it was swallowed by the black cane Izuku held, transforming into a rich black mist around him. "How weak," Kaki remarked, and to the 2 older men, it seemed like Izuku was mocking them. "This brat," they shouted, charging at him. One had a quirk that produced thorns made of sand. All their attacks were futile, getting absorbed by the black mist. This is bad. "Let's ditch the loser and run," one muttered, but they were restrained by the black fog, which wrapped around them like chains. "Thank you, Kaki. Don't sweat it, kid." Izuku offered a hand to the dark lavender-haired boy, who looked exhausted, and he took it gratefully. "Thank you. I'm Hitoshi Shinso." They introduced themselves a bit awkwardly while Izuku paid no mind. The green-haired boy turned his head slightly to appear less strange, as Kaki had suggested. "Izuku Midoriya. Wanna be friends?" he asked happily. "You wanna be friends with someone like me?" Hitoshi muttered, bewildered that someone had offered him friendship. "Of course. My gut tells me you're really nice." By gut, he meant Kaki, but the purple-haired preteen wouldn't know that. "Sure. Just don't regret your decision then," Hitoshi said, scratching his head. Kaki informed Izuku that it was getting late, and their not blood-related brother would get worried. It's getting late, I should probably go now. I'll see you around, Hitoshi-kun, Izuku said with a closed-eye smile before turning to walk away. Shinso pulled out a genuine smile, happy that he finally gained a friend after years of being avoided because of his quirk. As Izuku arrived home, Dabi bombarded him with questions, much like a doting parent. The green-haired boy shared news of his new friend, which delighted Dabi. While they were chatting, Aizawa arrived and laid out some files before taking a deep breath. "Would you like to be real brothers and let me adopt you?" he finally asked after what seemed like 10 minutes. "Really? That would be great." Izuku squealed happily, now wearing his BLNDFLD. "Is that really fine? I thought you didn't like taking care of us." Dabi crossed his arms, hiding his happiness. "Don't take that personally, I do like living with noisy kids if I get sleep," Aizawa yawned. "So? What do you say?" "Yes. Fine." Aizawa smiled, his life just got more interesting. Several years later, Izuku and Tia Aizawa had been sorting files with their dad for hours. The three looked similar to each other with their baggy eyes. "Are we finally done?" Izuku sighed, standing up groggily as the others did the same. They walked like zombies until they reached their room and basically passed out. Izuku had recently turned 14, and Dabi was already 20, with the younger often teasing the older about getting old. Dabi met Shinso during their time as Aizawa's kids, and for Izuku's sake, the two also became comrades. The green-haired boy was homeschooled for most of his middle school life, which he didn't mind at all. He was happy to learn something other than just lazing around and taking frequent walks with Kaki guiding him. Shinso and Izuku were currently aiming for UA, since the green-haired boy's dad worked there. For Shinso, he just wanted to be a hero to protect his friends. Dabi decided to assist Eraserhead during missions, earning a name for himself soon after his debut. Izuku frequently visited the two pro-heroes after he learned of the other two's passing. To say he was depressed was an understatement. It even reached the point where he would visit their graves every day with Dabi, mourning their warmth and open arms. He talked to the graves as if they were there and alive. Izuku hadn't met his mother nor the man he called his father over the years, and he was actually thankful. Though he wished to see his childhood friend along with his family, he had a new life now and hoped his friend would aim for the same school as him. A new path awaited the boy. Plus Ultra. News had gotten out that the underground hero had kids, which surprised everyone, as he had managed to hide that fact for so long. The staff was in chaos, wondering who exactly Aizawa's mystery children were. Nizu was particularly interested. The pro-hero himself admitted that he adopted two troublesome kids. Because of that slip, he often got asked who they were or what they looked like. Some asked if they would be attending UA, to which Aizawa just shrugged. After exhausting days like those, he was often welcomed by the smell of dinner and the sound of cats, which he appreciated, along with his noisy kids who just couldn't seem to quiet down. So if Kaki were to, and I would hit him with the help of Kaki, I should be able to do that. What do you mean, stupid? Ugh, I'm not the one whose privacy was stolen, Izuku mumbled, annoying his dad who had just gotten home. What happened to my coffee jelly? Dabi shouted, stomping into the living room. Izuku's sweat dropped as he stood and tried to escape. He activated his quirk and was about to retaliate when their dad used his capture gear to wrap the older of the two, making him look like a mummy. I arrive at work exhausted, leave work exhausted, and now I have to come home and leave my own apartment exhausted? Give it a break, you kids, the underground hero groaned, letting go of Izuku. Dad! Izuku turned around and smiled, while Dabi crossed his arms and clicked his tongue, mumbling something along the lines of, almost got him. The two siblings went into the kitchen, calling their dad, as they were in charge of dinner today after all. What kind of abomination did you two make? Aizawa sat up and went to the cozy kitchen, where he surprisingly smelled something good. We actually tried today, Izuku exclaimed, holding a cookbook for Dabi while Kaki helped his older brother. You did nothing. Dabi teased. What do you mean nothing? I'm the one holding your guide. Izuku pouted. Well, yeah, I suppose so, but Dabi can barely see what he's making because the book is in front of the pan. Izuku widened his eyes and slightly moved the book to the left, away from his brother. Finally, Kaki told you. Dabi snickered as he finished up their dinner, and Izuku caught a whiff of salmon. Why didn't you bother telling me? Izuku questioned. I wanted to see how long it would take for them to tell you, no other reason, the older teen replied with a smile as he served their supper. After their dad set the table and dinner was finally served, they all took a seat and ate in comfortable silence. This was soon disrupted by Dabi's snort. He was trying to hold back laughter at how silly Izuku looked. Izuku fumbled around for his plate while Kaki had already picked up a spoon, waiting for him to notice. Izuku seemed to have gotten the message, blushing as he gratefully ate with Kaki's help. Soon after they finished eating, the youngest's phone dinged. Sleep-deprived Plum sent a voicemail at 9:48 p.m. While I was walking, the beach was like a trash dump. Want to clean it as training? You need some muscle. Sure, but I don't think I'll be much help on my own. I'll need Kaki to assist me. So does that count as cheating? Izuku replied in a voicemail at 9:50 p.m. But don't you dare use them to pick up stuff, you dweeb, sleep-deprived Plum responded at 9:56 p.m. Izuku chuckled at this as Kaki transformed into a cane. He walked to his room and decided to hit the sack. When morning came, he woke up earlier than usual. With no one awake yet, he could ditch the BLNDFLD for the meantime. He missed seeing everything, even the littlest things. Izuku fixed up some breakfast, ate a bit, and then left the household with his BLNDFLD on again. Kaki turned into a cane as usual, guiding him to Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. When they arrived, the dim mist indicated Shinso's presence waiting for him. Zukuen! Down here! His purple-haired friend shouted, and Izuku quickly made his way down. Toshi! You're here early. Have you been waiting a while? Izuku asked, noting it was 6:30. Nah, not really. I just got here about 5 minutes ago. Even if you can't see it, this dump sure is huge, Shinso muttered, looking at the endless piles of trash on the sand. Izuku chuckled as Kaki guided him close to the pile, and he tried feeling and guessing what the lightest piece was. Zukuen, that's a fridge, Hitoshi informed him, chuckling slightly as Izuku flushed with embarrassment. It's not my fault. Blame Kaki. He told me it was just a small microwave. Izuku pouted as Kaki stopped fooling around and guided him to where the lighter pieces of trash were. After a while, according to Shinso and Kaki, it seemed they had finished a quarter of the beach. The two boys stretched their arms. No, what time is it? The green-haired boy asked. 2 p.m. Why? They had been there for a while. Really? We haven't eaten lunch yet. Wanna go grab some? Izuku offered. Why not? Let's go, Shinso agreed as they both stood up, and Kaki turned into a cane again. Arriving at the heart of the city, Shinso spotted the number 2 hero, Endeavor, patrolling around. Izuku scowled at the sight. He had never held a grudge against the hero, but something about his actions made him uneasy. He felt bad for whoever had him as a father, yet Izuku was not one to talk. The two friends arrived at a nearby fast food place. Izuku waited patiently while Shinso went in line, humming a soft tune. Kaki informed him they had a seat facing the window. The chairs were a little high up, so it was no surprise that Izuku struggled to get on the seat, drawing a few glances from the other customers. The noise was faint, but the boy could hear a chair skidding nearby. Kaki briefly informed him that the person was not Shinso. A teen with heterochromia sat down by himself until he noticed a boy who seemed to be in middle school. The sleek raven BLNDFLD caught his attention, and he was about to ask why it was being worn when another male sat next to him with a tray of food. Zuko, I'm here. Gotcha burger with that side of fries you're obsessed with? The purple-haired teen chuckled, and the other male reciprocated the laugh. The boy looked like he was in high school, probably around the same age as the bi-eyed teen. I really hope you get into UA Shinso. I got a recommendation. From Dad, so I don't have to take the entrance exam. I'll still be training with you either way, the seemingly younger of the two encouraged the plum-haired male. UA? Was he not in middle school? And his father was a pro hero? Or maybe a teacher there? But do any of the teachers there have any kids? The two-toned teen eavesdropped, silently eating his fries. After a few minutes, The two boys stood up, getting ready to leave. The heterochromiac teen noticed he was done too and was about to leave when his father entered the restaurant and stood in his way. Shoto, why are you eating at such a place? Everything is unhealthy and will hinder you from being the #1 hero, Endeavor told him in a hushed voice, trying not to be overheard by others, except for the two boys nearby. They heard it, and the tension was palpable. It might not be my business, but I believe your son can make his own choices. He doesn't deserve to be controlled by his father, a green-headed boy spoke up. Endeavor eyed him in disgust. This really shouldn't be your business, boy, the pro-hero scowled at the blindfolded teen. I don't need someone with a disability telling me, the #2 hero. You're playing a dangerous game, pro-hero Endeavor. His dad is a pro-hero. Shinso stood protectively in front of Izuku. The pro-hero staggered back slightly, worried about being exposed. He clicked his tongue before dragging his son away, leaving the fast food restaurant. What happened? Did they leave? Izuku poked Shinso, who smiled in triumph. Yeah, they did. The two boys lay on the ground, exhausted from lifting junk. After finishing, Dabi went to pick up his brother. Their dad was making dinner after all. Bye, Toshi. See you tomorrow. Izuku smiled and waved to where he thought his friend was. Shinso chuckled as he bid him farewell. The walk home was quiet. Kaki had already turned into a stick for Izuku. They saw the building in the distance, quickly hopped into the elevator, and pressed the button for the 10th floor. Dabi opened the door with a spare key, and they walked inside, smelling their supper already. After a few minutes, the three ate quietly as usual. Is Shinso doing good? The entrance exam is 5 months away after all, their dad said, stuffing his mouth, clearly hungry. By the time the entrance exam starts, he'll ace it. I do have topics to teach him for the practical exam, Izuku muttered endlessly until Kaki slapped him out of it. The other two laughed at their antics. Hey, can Mito and I go with you? I'm like your sidekick or whatever, just tell them Mito's your son, Dabi asked his dad between bites. Izuku was happy to hear that his brother thought of that. Yeah, Dad. I'll be able to see how Shinso does in the practical exams. Izuku beamed, knowing their dad was weak to this. Sure, whatever. Nizu would probably agree with it, Aizawa yawned, drained from his work. I'll go wash the dishes, you two should go rest, Dabi chuckled, noticing the two had already finished. His brother was the first to stand up, muttering a quick, thank you, and almost hitting a few walls on the way to their room. Their dad gave him a look. You sure? He asked groggily. Yep, I kind of lazed around today, didn't I? Just burned a guy's face off, it wasn't that tiring. Dabi waved his hand as he stacked the plates. You need rest, Dad, his son said with a genuine smile. 4.5 months later. Man, I'm going to Sage, Shinso groaned as he sat on a very clean beach. Why are you saying that when there are only a few weeks left? I even tried my best to encourage you these months, Izuku pouted. I'm just kidding, I'll do great, Shinso replied, but his monotone voice didn't make it believable. Now you're mocking me? How dare you? Izuku joked, pointing dramatically in a random direction. What the hell, where are you pointing at? Shinso held in a laugh but ended up snickering. Oh, shut up, it's not like I did it on purpose. Izuku retorted as they continued their playful banter. It was going to go on for ages until the green-headed teen's brother interrupted. You guys sure are noisy. You'll get a lot of attention like that, Tuya said, scratching his head and earning a few glances from passers-by. He was the infamous Dabi after all, Eraserhead's one and only sidekick. Aren't you the one who's getting it? Shinso said at the same time. You're right. It's not my fault I'm hot, Dabi flattered himself, smirking. You're not hot, Tuchan. You're just famous, Izuku said, rolling his eyes. Agreed, Shinso snickered as he stood up, and Dabi dragged him up. You two are really out for my head, huh? He laughed. Anyways, Shinso, better not fail. I don't want Mito to be alone in his class. See you next week, Toshi. Izuku waved to no one in particular. The two were taking their monthly break. They wouldn't last if they picked up bulky scraps every day for roughly 4.5 months. Izuku was probably going to spend his time recording notes on heroes. He was grateful that his recorder for villains was with him, it would be really helpful in the near future. The green-headed teen spent most of his time annoying Dabi and reading books when he was home alone. He loved to immerse himself in complex topics, which some might call nerdy. Izuku's break was soon interrupted as the final day of the week approached. 5 months had almost passed, and the entrance exam was nearing. Izuku felt nervous for Shinso, but he knew the boy had become smarter and stronger, able to control his power much better than when they first met. As the weeks of endless training continued, there was less than a week before the exam. Surprisingly, Shinso remained calm, though he often muttered his regrets just after Izuku thought he was motivated. The two decided to take a break from training the day before the exam, knowing they needed rest to avoid exhaustion during the test. Soon the day arrived. Both boys were anxious, even though only Shinso would be participating. They met at the entrance of UA High School, where the practical test would take place. Izuku chose not to wear his black BLNDFLD to avoid drawing attention. If the worst happened and he accidentally opened his eyes, Kaki would use his mist to cover them. Inside the assembly hall, they took seats next to each other. A blonde-haired boy noticed Shinso and was about to call out to him, but the orientation had already begun. "What's up, Minna?" "Present, Mike," the loud pro-hero boomed, his voice echoing throughout the hall. He explained everything the students needed to know for the practical exam. Suddenly, a solid-looking male raised his hand and stood tall. "Excuse me. You indicated that there are only 3 robots, yet there are 4 in the manual. With all due respect, is this a mistake? It would be quite disappointing from such a prestigious school." His voice rivaled that of Present Mike. "And you there? Quit mumbling. If you are here to distract students, I suggest you leave." Present Mike turned to Izuku, who seemed oblivious. Kaki was too focused to notice. "Hey, are you ignoring me? How impolite. This should not be the attitude of a future UA student. If you pass this exam," the boy shouted. "You're too noisy. Aren't you the one interrupting the exam?" "He can't see because of his quirk," Shinso quickly explained, leaving both Izuku and the boy dumbfounded. "Idare? Was he referring to me earlier?" Izuku mumbled, glancing at Kaki for clarification. "Yeah," Shinso replied. "You are right," the boy said, turning to the front and bowing. "I'm very sorry for interrupting." It's fine," Present Mike said, scratching his head. "Now to answer your question. No, it is not a mistake. Actually, the last robot is a 0-pointer. You will get no points for defeating it if you manage to beat it." The pro-hero quickly explained. Murmurs and surprised whispers erupted from the crowd. "Now I've explained everything. Everyone, head to the battlegrounds." As they arrived, the space resembled a city, strikingly accurate. Kaki explained the layout to Izuku, who was sitting on a bench, watching and relaying what he saw. Shinso looked around for the boy he presumed was blind but couldn't find him. Shinso sighed. The city was enormous, and his nerves began to rise again. He wanted to pass, for both Izuku and himself. While Izuku sat, Nizu bombarded him with questions like, "When did Aizawa adopt you?" and "Who's your brother?" He almost answered, but his dad stopped him. Dabi snickered from behind, noting how large the area was, capable of accommodating thousands of people, similar to a stadium. As the rest warmed up for the test, a few pro-heroes watched, including Endeavor. Izuku hoped he wouldn't remember the incident from 5 months ago. He was interrupted from his conversation with Kaki when Present Mic's booming voice rang out again, this time with a single word, "Go." The students were caught off guard. There was no countdown. "What are you waiting for? No real villain fight has a countdown." Present Mike shouted as the examinees stumbled into the arena, surrounded by buildings and robots ready to attack. They spread out, and Shinso began defeating 2- and 3-pointers one by one. They felt lighter than the debris he and Izuku had carried to clean the beach, boosting his confidence. Each student displayed unique quirks, and Kaki eagerly shared everything he observed with Izuku, who was excited to record it in his hero analysis digital recorder. As everyone passionately destroyed robots, the ground shook suddenly. "What the heck? An earthquake?" One student panicked. "No, it's a 0-pointer." Others shouted as they turned their attention to the massive robot, larger and stronger than half the robots attacking them. Its feet sank into the ground, leaving indents with each step. A brown-haired girl became trapped under a pile of rubble. Kaki noticed and quickly helped her, using his black mist to throw the large rock at the zero-pointer, causing it to topple over. Surprised murmurs filled the air as students wondered whose Quirk had just saved the girl. Silently, Kaki returned to Izuku's side and informed him about the robot, omitting the part about helping the examinee, as it might have been against the rules. The mist wanted the examinees to think that it was someone's Quirk. Back with the examinees, Shinso recognized the black mist and wondered if Izuku knew about it. Recovery Girl arrived and healed the injured examinees with a gentle touch. The exam officially ended, and the examinees dispersed, instructed to expect a letter in a few days. Izuku waited for Shinso, eager to congratulate his friend for surviving the exam. He hoped Shinso had scored enough points to be in the same class as him. Kaki informed Izuku that Shinso was approaching. "Zu-kun, you were still here?" Shinso asked, a bit embarrassed. "Of course." Kaki said you did well, Izuku chuckled. "I hope you pass." "I hope so too," Shinso replied with a grin, ruffling Izuku's hair. "Your brother's coming, let's walk home together." "All right. We should open your letter together when it arrives," Izuku suggested excitedly. "We should. You help me after all." Shinso smiled as they walked back to their neighborhood with Izuku's brother, soon parting ways. "See you when you get your letter, Toshi." Izuku waved, anticipating his friend's response. "Up. I hope I get in," Shinso shouted back, already far away. Shinso knocked at Izuku's door, letter in hand. Dabi opened the door and let him in. Izuku was waiting in the living room, having been informed about the letter beforehand. "Toshi? Are you here already? Take a seat. Let's open it." Izuku giggled, swaying his leg. Shinso chuckled and sat across from him on the comfy couch, noticing the cat hairs on it. He pulled out the oddly bulky letter, revealing a device with a red button. It isn't a letter." "What is this?" he muttered. "Just press the button." Aizawa called from his office. "A button? Oh yeah, you're right, it's UA after all," Izuku said, already used to talking to himself. Shinso pressed the button, and a hologram of Present Mike appeared. "Hey listen, Izuku, Aizawa's kid. Are you two friends?" Present Mike asked. Yeah, me and him are friends." "Are you Dad's friend?" Izuku replied. "You could say that, I'm also his coworker." The blonde-haired hero smiled. "Wait, is this some kind of advanced video call?" Shinso questioned. "Correct." Present Mike exclaimed, pointing at Shinso. "I am here to tell you, Hitoshi Shinso, that you passed," he shouted. "Congrats on getting into Class 1A, the Hero Course class." He gave a thumbs up. "Toshi, you did it. Congratulations." Izuku beamed, pumping his fist in the air. "I did it. All that hard work for this," Shinso shouted, shaking Izuku, who was grinning widely. Dabi chuckled at their excitement. "We'll see you on the first day, little listener." "Congrats again," Present Mike said before the hologram turned off. "We're in the same class, Toshi. I'm excited to go to school with you. I've been homeschooled because I was always in danger, but now I get to attend high school with my friend." Izuku rambled until Dabi interrupted. "I'll be coming with you and picking you up at the entrance every day. You might get attacked by a villain, you know? They probably haven't forgotten about you or me," Dabi said, hands in his pockets. That sounds like a mother telling her kid she'll accompany him to kindergarten." Izuku pouted. "I'll look so uncool. With me as your brother? No way. They'll be in awe to see such a famous and handsome sidekick with you," Dabi flattered himself, making both boys snort at his antics. "I'm serious," Dabi insisted, huffing. "I'm glad I'll be going to school with a friend." "Thank you, Toshi." With a few weeks before they attended UA, Aizawa had a thought. "Problem child, you should probably get something other than Kaki to guide you. These days you're using them more than you can handle. How about a guide dog?" "Mito likes dogs," Dabi suggested. "A dog? I want one." Izuku beamed, swaying his legs excitedly. "Aren't they expensive?" "I don't want to pester Dad anymore," Izuku said, fiddling with his fingers. "I'm a pro hero, problem child. I can pay a few 10,000 yen, Dabi reassured him, patting his head. It's probably going to be a Labrador, aren't those your favorite? Dabi stated, making Izuku nod in agreement. Then let's get one, it'll help you around when you go inside the school. Aizawa opened his phone, texting a friend. Since I'm your chaperone to school, you should have someone guide you other than that sleep-deprived teen and a mist with no face, Dabi said, shaking his head. Izuku chuckled at Kaki's statement. Aizawa widened his eyes while looking at a text from a friend. Problem child, getting a guide dog and training with them will take longer than I thought. About 4 to 5 weeks, are you willing to attend training for you and your guide dog after classes? His dad asked, ending the call. This was an important question, whether he was willing to sacrifice his free time or would rather spend it with friends or at home. A guide dog would be helpful since a regular cane wouldn't assist him as much. He would still need to rely on Kaki, whether on the road or navigating obstacles. Izuku replied quickly, as if it shouldn't be a question at all. Of course I am. Kaki's senses are getting dulled the more I use them, so if I let them rest, their senses will regain and return to normal. That was his logic. Great. I already applied somewhere. A friend of mine works at a training center for guide dogs. Their dad smiled. We own 3 cats and we're going to have a dog now too? This household is going to get noisy, Dabi chuckled, petting a white cat their dad adopted a long time ago. You two are already noisy as is, Aizawa said, scratching his head, making the 2 kids groan in disagreement. We'll enroll him as soon as possible. There's only a few weeks before the first day, and I want people's first impression of him to be just someone with a dog quirk. Their dad explained, we can't let them know that you have 2 quirks, a deadly one and a mentally exhausting one. Aizawa ruffled his son's hair, making him nod. Bet the dog is going to be twice the size of Mito's head, Dabi joked, looking up pictures of Labradors. Are Labradors that huge? I mean, I haven't really seen one, and well, it'll be quite disastrous if I do. Izuku chuckled solemnly. Oh man, what happens if Mito looks at you? Will you be able to erase his quirk or will something bad happen? Dabi questioned out of mere curiosity, a question that neither his brother nor his father had an answer to. Two-chan, that's a dumb question. Dad might get hurt if we try it out, Izuku pouted. Yeah, your brother is probably right. Let's not answer that question for the time being, Aizawa smiled. Fine. A bright green-headed kid made his way to a guide dog training center with a pro hero who lacked coffee, his adoptive father, and his noisy, narcissistic sidekick, who was also his brother. Are we there yet? Dabi and Izuku asked for what seemed like the 100th time. No, we are not. How many times have I told you this? Do we look like we're there? Their dad rubbed his temples, gesturing to the bars and probably illegal clubs around them. Dabi shook his head, the younger shrugging. They walked a few more kilometers before the 2 stopped, Izuku crashing into his brother's back. Oh, are we here? The green-headed teen rubbed his forehead. Yup, Dabi replied. We're here, problem child. The teen was led to a medium-sized building made of bricks that looked like an elementary school. Inside was a receptionist desk and lots of posters. Ah, Pro Hero Eraserhead. I heard about you and your friend's kid. Is this him? She gestured to the green-haired boy, who wore an eye-catching black binocular. Luckily, he meets our standards, and since a pro hero has come to our quaint center, we would like him and a dog that has graduated to train together for 4 to 5 weeks. She smiled, her dark green hair swaying. Not 4 to 5 months. Dabi gawked. But the old man told us. I lied, Aizawa admitted. Why? Dabi pet a brow, his blue eyes staring at his dad in utter confusion. I really wanted to check if the problem child was desperate to have a guide dog, because if he refused, then it was safe to say he didn't want it as much as he thought. The underground hero patted the green-haired boy's head, ruffling it in the process. I'm glad I accepted Eraser-sen. Izuku beamed, excited to get another friend. Kaki, I hope you get some rest. With luck on their side, Izuku and his guide dog, which he hadn't named yet, completed the requirements. They finished just a few days before the first day. Izuku figured they would continue to have walks again and roam UA, as they were granted permission to train at the prestigious school because of his disability. Because of this, the green-haired boy was able to locate almost everywhere, including his classroom, Class 1A, the cafeteria, Ground Beta, Gym Gamma, and, of course, the training grounds. He was also asked to think of something to signify his seat, and he did just that. Currently, Izuku was at home asking his dog to grab his recorder, pointing with a makeshift cane. The dog gladly brought it to him, breathing as it settled on his lap. Izuku ruffled the dog's head, then patted the space next to him, making the dog climb up and sit. Izuku pressed the button and began to speak. Passage 53 on my daily surroundings. Me and my guide dog got home a few minutes earlier, and I love them so much. I'm pretty sure they're a boy, but I'm not sure what I should call him yet. Dad and Tuchan are the same as always, still sane and still begrudgingly breathing. The green-haired boy chuckled at his own joke. His dog came close and barked, "Ruff? That's my new friend, he says hi." I also saw a pro hero in action, Kamui Woods, one of my favorites. He beamed, reminiscing about the experience. But of course, I don't like him more than my dad. He's the #1 hero for me. He adopted me and gave me a place to live. Though, I've said that many times here, haven't I? My passion for All Might still hasn't faded, of course. He is still a hero I idolize, just not as much at this moment. I also heard some explosions here and there like usual, but I don't really know why. There was probably a villain. I always think I'm being watched by someone. But Kaki doesn't think so, and I have my guide dog and him to protect me. The green-haired boy chuckled. That's it for today. Bye-bye. He stopped recording and felt for the hero analysis recorder he had thrown on the couch earlier. He then recorded information about Kamui Woods with Kaki as his assistant. Izuku was using Kaki less and less now, and the boy was glad to be depending less on his borrowed quirk. Passage 155 on my hero analysis for the future. Kamui Woods was really cool, as stated by Kaki. I remember his name was Nishiya Shinji. Dad talked about him once. He has a really cool quirk. It's called Arbor, I'm pretty sure. Like his name, he can enlarge his wooden body into sturdy branches. It's stretchable and can extend very long. I remember briefly talking to him on the phone because Dad told me he wanted to meet me. His tone was serious even though it was a casual chat. I can't deny that he's super nice, though. He's someone I want to be if quirks didn't exist and I chose to be a businessman. Izuku chuckled to himself. He isn't the #7 pro hero for nothing. Dad also thinks he's strong. I gotta work harder to be like the top-ranking heroes. Excluding the #2 hero. Izuku stopped recording. The next few days went on quite normally for the boy. It was a routine of training, taking walks with his guide dog, and recording in his 2 digital recorders at the end of the day. The green-haired boy stood in front of the large prestigious school, his guide dog by his left side and his older brother on his right. He was trembling in fear and his nerves stilled. The boy mumbled profusely until his older brother slapped his back quite harshly. "What are you mumbling and shaking for? As your brother, I ain't gonna like that. Santal, you got recommended by a pro hero, and you need to act like a student who was recommended." Dabi gave him a thumbs up. "But I only got it because he was my dad." Izuku stated the obvious as Dabi face-bombed. "Mito, Dad didn't give a recommendation just because you're his adoptive son, but rather it's because he sees potential in you. You're stronger than you think you are. Always keep that advice in mind." Dabi smiled, pep-talking the nervous boy. "Thanks, Tuchan. I'll get going now. Shinso probably got here early." Izuku waved and felt for his brother's shoulder. "Wish me luck, big brother." "Why wouldn't I?" Dabi chuckled. The green-haired boy walked forward with his guide dog, who was doing his task and steering him away from the people Izuku was about to bump into. He didn't have his BLNDFLD on today, so he would have loved to see what the school looked like, but of course, he wouldn't do that. This continued until the dog stopped, and Izuku halted as well. It seemed they had arrived at the classroom. He heard shouting voices, but it stopped when he went inside, and he swore he could feel everyone looking at him. "You're getting a lot of attention, good luck with that." "Shut up." Izuku walked in and took a few steps before turning abruptly, feeling the table to check if there was a heavy pen, and there was. It was the sign of whether it was his seat or not. Deku? Hey, is that you? A blonde asked him, and Izuku turned to his right. Kaken? Kaken? Izuku's closed eyes threatened to flutter open, but at last he kept them shut. The boy's head moved up. Why the hell are your eyes closed, nerd? Too scared to see my face? Katsuki joked, sparking petite explosions from the palm of his hand. I got a quirk, Kaken. But I can't look at you with it. The green-haired boy's smile looked painful and filled with sorrow. At least that's what Katsuki thought when he saw his childhood friend, who was temporarily blind because of a quirk. Huh? What do you mean you can't look at me? Are you saying you're blind because of it? He slammed his hands on the boy's table, causing Izuku's guide dog to act up and start barking. Shut up. A yellow caterpillar suddenly rose up, revealing a raven-haired male with a bit of stubble on his chin. The whole class looked at him, surprised. There was someone in there? The class shouted as he covered his ears. Pipe down, you noisy children. You're talking to your homeroom teacher, the pro-hero Eraserhead, or Aizawa Shoyuda. Deont. Now, why are you causing trouble on your first day? Aizawa glared at the hot-headed blonde as he clicked his tongue and took his seat. The dog stopped barking, which was a relief. It seems I don't have to argue then. It took you all about 10 seconds to stay quiet, which was slower than I expected. He scratched his stubble. Izuku chuckled quietly, his father acting just as he did at home. I don't want any trouble during the year, so I hope you hero students know about patience and how to keep quiet. He scratched his head. Let's get to the point already. Go to the changing rooms and change into your training uniforms. Aizawa yawned again and waited for the class's reply, shocking most of the students. But what about the orientation? A brown-haired girl questioned. We have no time for that. You're future heroes, and heroes need to train as soon as they can, their homeroom teacher explained smoothly. Now hurry up and get moving. After each student changed into their training uniforms, which consisted of blue and white, they waited for their teacher's instructions. Once Aizawa confirmed everyone was present, he began explaining the test. You all can use your quirks during the tests. UA's selling point is how leisure and unrestricted its school traditions are. We also want you to exceed your potential. He sounded bored, as if he had repeated this many times before. Bakugu, you topped the practical test, right? What was your farthest result for the softball throw in middle school? 67 meters. Then try doing it again but with your quirk. He handed Bakugu a baseball, who proceeded to the white circle. Bakugu smirked, gripping the ball tightly before releasing it with a shout. The baseball soared far past the field, propelled by his explosive quirk, leaving a trail of smoke in its wake. Know your limits, brats. Their teacher held up his phone, showing the class the results. That's the first sane and rational step to what kind of hero you should be. The class gaped at the numbers that exceeded his past result. What the heck? 705.2 meters. That's insane. This is gonna be wicked cool. We can use our quirks? Score. The class was in awe, excited for what lay ahead. Izuku mentally shook his head, knowing what his father was about to say. So you think this is all fun and games, huh? I didn't expect my class to be this naive. A small smirk formed on his lips. You're hoping to be heroes after you complete UA, right? Huh. The one with the lowest score on the final result board will be considered a fruitless attempt at being a hero and will be expelled. Izuku sighed, anticipating this moment. What? That's not fair. I admit that's true, but life is never fair. Society will never be fair. Aizawa crossed his arms, eyeing each of his students, noting the confusion and despair in their eyes until he spotted his son, who remained unfazed. He mentally smirked. That was his kid indeed. This path and your very own fate is your responsibility. This is the hero course of UA High School. Think you got what it takes? Show me. The students' expressions shifted from confusion and despair to determination to avoid being kicked out of the school they had worked hard to enter. The first test is a 50-meter dash. Use your quirks to their fullest potential to get a fast result. All the students raced passionately, each second recorded by their teacher. Kaki wrapped around Izuku's legs, making it look like his torso was engulfed in a black mist. As soon as Aizawa gave the signal, Kaki's mist extended like legs, propelling him to the finish line with incredible speed. First, Tenya Ida 3.00 seconds. Second, Midoriya Izuku 3.49 seconds. Third, Bakugo Katsuki 4.13 seconds. Fourth, Todoroki Shudo 5.02 seconds. 10th, Hitoshi Shinso 10.45 seconds. Your next test is grip strength. Grab one of those handheld devices. It can read the force you exhibit in kilograms. Aizawa instructed as everyone tested their grip strength. Izuku had Kaki help him, encasing his arm in a dense mist that enhanced his strength, allowing him to achieve a good score. First, Mizo Shoji 580.2 kilograms. Second, Rikido Sato 550.3 kilograms. Third, Midoriya Izuku 530.0 kilograms. Fourth, Hitoshi Shinso 519.1 kilograms. Fifth, Bakugo Katsuki 467.8 kilograms. Seventh, Todoroki Shudo 312.5 kilograms. The next test is the standing long jump. The title is self-explanatory. Aizawa explained briefly. Izuku activated Kaki again and cleared the sandbox easily, going a bit too far. Bakugo Katsuki cleared sandbox. Hitoshi Shinso cleared sandbox. Midoriya Izuku cleared sandbox. Todoroki Shudo cleared sandbox. The second to last test is the repeated side steps. Very basic, but let's see how well you do. Aizawa crossed his arms. Izuku activated Kaki and bounced from side to side, the black mist propelling him quickly and effectively. He clearly stood out among the participants. Lastly, we'll be doing the ball throw. Everyone go to the white circle like Bakugo did earlier when it's your turn. Aizawa instructed as students awaited their turn, nervous and fidgeting. This was the final test after all. The brown-haired girl from earlier, Uraraka, impressed everyone by achieving an incredible result. What? Unbelievable! Students gasped, their nerves escalating. Kaki gripped the ball as Izuku stood quietly with closed eyes, the dim mist extending and moving like a W before throwing the ball rather harshly. The results of the tests were soon displayed on the board, and the rankings were as follows. First, Momo Yaoyorozu. Second, Izuku Midoriya. Third, Todoroki Shudo. Fourth, Katsuki Bakugo. Fifth, Tenya Ida. Sixth, Tokoyami Fumikichi. Seventh, Mizo Shoji. Eighth, Masahiro Ojiro. Ninth, Eijiro Kirishima. 10th, Mina Ishido. 11th, Hitoshi Shinso. 12th, Ichako Uraraka. 13th, Koji Koda. 14th, Rikido Sato. 15th, Tsuyu Azui. 16th, Yugoyama. 17th, Hantasiro. 8th, Denki Kaminari. 19th, Kyokujiro. 20th, Toru Hagakure. Oh no! I'm getting expelled, the invisible girl cried out, regretting her performance. As expected of the students recommended by a pro hero. They were excellent, Ida said, adjusting his glasses. I'm just kidding, everyone, no one is getting expelled, Aizawa added with a smile, causing gasps of relief, including from Izuku. Of course he wouldn't expel anyone, that was obvious, Momo stated matter-of-factly. Izuku thought about how his father had expelled a whole class last year, remembering his complaints about their lack of potential. This class might be special, he mused, feeling a sense of pride. After changing back to their uniforms, they returned to the classroom, where they were soon bombarded with lessons. The class bell rang, signaling lunchtime. As everyone headed out, Izuku was about to leave with his guide dog and Shinso when Katsuki stopped him. Deku, what happened to you after you went missing? And you got in on recommendation? And that Quirk just... How? Katsuki asked, his curiosity evident. Izuku was caught off guard. What do you mean, Kakin? This is the Quirk I've always had. Then why can't you look at me with it? You'll just pass out. I don't want to inconvenience others. I usually wear a BLNDFLD to avoid it, but school is an exception. I don't want to stand out after all. Izuku smiled in Katsuki's direction. Too late for that, You stood out like a sore thumb with top 3 on the leaderboard and being a recommendation student at that. Katsuki ruffled his friend's hair. I missed you, nerd. School was peaceful, and everyone was friendly, though many classmates asked Izuku why his eyes were closed or what would happen if he opened them. He often felt uncomfortable, reminiscing about past experiences he wished to forget. He spent most of his lunch with Shinso and Ida, sometimes sitting with Katsuki. During a typical day, Class 1A's homeroom teacher, Aizawa Shoyuta, announced an important task. You guys need to select someone as your class representative, he said, clearly dreading the process. Really? Some students exclaimed. Oh my god, how exciting! Ida stood up, capturing the class's attention. Everyone, may I advise you all to vote fairly and avoid voting for yourself. It will save time and remove favoritism, he announced, his usual serious demeanor shining through. The students cast their votes, and Aizawa tallied the results. Izuku Midoriya 5. Momo Yair 3. Katsuki Bakugon. Ida Tenyuan. Ashido Minato. Yuga Oyamon. Ochako Urarikon. Koji Kodo. Rikido Satoon. Mizo Shoji. Mashireo Ojiroton. Hanta Siroon. Fumikage Tokoimi. Toru Hagakure. Shritu 0. Hitoshi Shinso 0. Shudo Todoroki 0. Denki Kaminari 0. Ijiro Kirishima 0 inch. Eraserhead wrote the results on the chalkboard, and the class reacted with surprise. Midoriya? Some students exclaimed, and Izuku cringed at the use of his former surname. Yes, he replied, tilting his head, knowing he couldn't see the board. Aizawa face-bombed at the oversight. Yeah. Deku, you got class representative happy? Katsuki turned to him, feigning frustration but clearly pleased. Idare. Izuku gasped in astonishment. Why me? Because you're the most friendly, duh, almost everyone replied. Aizawa called Izuku and Momo to the front. As you can see, Izuku Midoriya is class rep and Momo Yairzu is deputy republic. The class applauded, and both students expressed their gratitude. After that nerve-wracking event, classes resumed, and soon it was lunchtime again. Izuku sat with Shinso and Ida, discussing the significance of his new position. That is an important position, isn't it? I don't have the right to be class rep. I'm awkward, inefficient, and most importantly, fine. Honestly, someone like Ida should be class rep. The green-haired boy sighed, not expecting such pressure. Nonsense, Midoriya. I voted for you, you shouldn't be so down, Ida comforted him with a smile. Zukuin, I voted for you too. You're very heroic, even if you are a bit awkward, Shinso chuckled, enjoying his lunch. Really? Thank you guys. Izuku scratched his head awkwardly just as the alarms began blaring, causing panic among the students. There's someone who infiltrated the school. Run, one student shouted, and a large group quickly made their escape. The three friends were caught in the chaos, unsure of what was happening. Izuku clutched his guide dog tightly, looking a bit ridiculous but knowing it wasn't the time to worry about appearances. Excuse me. Might I ask what is happening? Ida asked a third-year student. It means someone infiltrated the school. It's probably a villain. This hasn't happened in my 3 years. Hurry and evacuate, the student shouted, rushing away. The three friends were swept along with the crowd. Izuku was pushed against a glass wall, his dog barking at the panicking students. Kaki noticed it was just the media and quickly informed him. Shinso and Ida focused on staying together. Kaki spotted Urarika, the girl who could make people levitate, and Izuku took his chance. Ida-kun. Urarika-san. It's just the media. Please make Ida-kun levitate and Ida-kun. Please tell them. Izuku shouted, trying to be heard over the noise. The two exchanged glances and nodded. Urarika touched Ida's shoulder, and he floated up to the ceiling. Though it was an awkward position, he didn't mind. Everyone. Please settle down. Look out the window. It's just the media, so there are no villains or threats, he shouted. Time seemed to freeze as the realization hit each student, changing their demeanor. Urarika soon released him, and Ida landed next to his friends. That was great, Ida-kun. As I expected, you're better off being the class rep. Izuku smiled, hugging his dog as the students began to disperse. Not at all, Midoriya. It was thanks to your plan that we managed to calm everyone down. Ida adjusted his glasses as the 4 students headed back to their classroom, realizing lunch had long finished during the commotion. I would like to resign as the class representative and nominate Ida Tenya, who helped keep the students calm during the false alarm, Izuku announced. Ida was taken aback. Totally. I'm okay with that. That was so manly. He suits it. Most of the class agreed, and Ida couldn't protest because he truly wanted it. The teachers grew suspicious. The media couldn't have caused this. They concluded it might have been a villain blending in. Listen up, everyone. Suit up in your hero costumes and get on the bus outside. We're going off campus for your exercise. Today, your hero training class is starting. Each student of Class 1A changed into their hero suits, ready for their basic hero training class. They hopped on the bus, and Izuku sat next to Shinso with his guide dog on his lap. They engaged in lively conversation, never running out of topics. Izuku-chan, how do you control your quirk so well despite your disability? Tsuyu asked, tilting her head. Izuku thought for a moment. You see, I train very hard, yeah? He chuckled awkwardly. That explains it. Training is very manly. Kirishima grinned. Expected of a student on recommendation. They work very hard, Tsuyu added with a smile. After a few minutes of idle chatter, the underground hero cleared his throat. Brats were here. Everyone get off. All Might was supposed to be here but got delayed. The students flooded out of the bus and looked at the expansive area. They were welcomed by ProHero 13, who was dressed in an astronaut costume. Welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ. 13 announced. In this exercise, you must use your quirks to save people rather than fight. It is one of the steps to becoming great. 13 began, but was cut off as a familiar black warp appeared before them. 2 dangerous villains emerged, overwhelming the students. Kaki's breath hitched as he informed Izuku of their arrival. They're here? What? Izuku stared in horror, memories flooding back. A pale blue-haired villain with hands all over his face scratched his neck. Where's All Might? Isn't he supposed to be here according to? His eyes scanned the crowd and landed on Izuku. Era, I didn't expect you to be here. Are you actually aiming to be a hero? Disgusting. His voice sent shivers through the students, leaving them confused. Izuku clutched his shirt, his smile fading as he gasped for air, causing concern among his classmates. Suddenly, he was pulled into a black portal, leaving his friends wide-eyed in shock. A mist dressed in a butler's suit held him tight. Izuku knew who this was without needing Kaki to tell him. Listen, Class 1A. This classmate of yours has killed countless people. Do you still think he should become a hero? The man asked, chuckling maniacally while scratching his neck. I'm sorry, Izuku, the mist whispered lowly, making the green-headed boy the only one who could hear the apologetic remark. Surprised murmurs spread among the students. Shinso was as speechless as Izuku's dad. They hadn't been informed of this. It seemed he had left out such a crucial event in his past. They did not think he was evil or cruel. Instead, their expressions reflected sorrow. The two were sure it was because he had been forced by his biological father. No matter what Midoriya has done, he wouldn't have attended UA if he was truly villainous. Everyone can change, no matter their actions, Todoroki spoke up, his right side turning cold. This shocked the class. They never expected him to stand up for their classmate. They barely even talked. Izuku smiled, feeling a sense of camaraderie. Kurogiri soon loosened his grip. This half-in-half BSRD is sadly but undoubtedly right. That nerd will never do something like that. It's obvious he was forced from his reaction earlier, Katsuki growled, lighting up with explosions. Let him go. The 2 teens rushed at the mist, brashly attacking it before they stumbled into another black hole, ending up back where they started. It's useless. They use a teleportation quirk. Aizawa gritted his teeth as other villains began to pour out from the mist. 13. Protect the students. Their teacher activated his quirk right after they flooded out, efficiently erasing every quirk and fighting back. While busy, he was too occupied to notice the blue-haired villain touch his elbow. A shot of confusion coursed through his mind before it was filled with pain, and he grasped his elbow as it began to decay due to the villain's deadly quirk. "Dad!" Izuku cried out, struggling to break free. It took all of Kurogyari's strength to keep hold of the boy. He felt bad, but if he let him go, Izuku Midoriya would surely die. The boy was too focused on the scene unfolding before him to care about his classmates' reactions to that name. While everyone was in despair and shock, 13 told Ida to head to UA to inform them of the villain attack. They were too busy fighting off the low-level thugs to protect the students, with some helping 13 to reduce the workload, as they were heroes in training. As the underground hero clutched his elbow and fell to the ground, the other students took the chance to attack the villains that dared to assault their injured teacher. They soon dispersed, and not one thug approached the damaged teacher. Aizawa thought he was safe when a looming shadow towered over him. He looked up and saw a strange creature with its brain protruding from its head like dessert on a platter. Just as it was about to attack, Izuku escaped from the mist's grasp, and khaki wrapped around his legs, making him mobile. The boy quickly opened his eyes, revealing furious forest camo eyes that stared the monster down, blocking the villain to protect his dad. Several students watched in astonishment as their usually closed-eye classmate finally opened his eyes. The creature instantly froze, its actions stilled as it toppled over. Izuku let out a shaky breath before closing his eyes again. It was dark, as it always was. They all stared in disbelief as the last villain fell. How could he defeat such a powerful-looking creature with just a single stare? The pale villain scratched his neck roughly, not expecting this to happen, let alone for that kid to be here. It was the only weapon against his sensei and the Nomu, aside from All Might's powerful punch that could take down 1,000 low-level thugs in an instant. Kurogyari had let the boy go because he couldn't let the child's new father die like that. He simply didn't have the will to allow such a thing to happen. Right after that, Pro-heroes arrived, along with All Might, who scooped the injured hero up. The look on his face was grim. "Thank you so much, young Midoriya. I applaud you for taking down the villain." He glanced at the lifeless creature. Its eyes were still open, and a fly even managed to land on it due to how still it was. The portal opened again, and the sky-haired villain twitched. "We'll be back. We will take our sweet vengeance." After the villains managed to escape, the boy was bombarded with questions, but they had to pause to notice the scene at hand. The pro-heroes seemed out of breath from the panic that stirred, having taken care of the thugs and tied them up. Snipe, Ectoplasm, and Present Mike asked if the students were okay, and luckily, no one was hurt. Once everything was deemed safe, they exited the area, and Eraserhead was quickly admitted to Recovery Girl's office due to the dire situation he faced. The police tied the lifeless creature up and covered it with a beige blanket. Detective Tsukachi decided to visit Recovery Girl's office to speak with Aizawa and a boy he was somewhat familiar with. Upon arriving, he saw the closed-eye boy and his adoptive father lying in a pure white bed, bandages covering his body. "Looks like he got you pretty bad, Aizawa." Tsukachi chuckled as the two acknowledged his presence. "Shut up, I got attacked from behind." Aizawa sighed, feeling uncomfortable with all the bandages. "I heard about what the villain said from one of the eyewitnesses." "Hey Izuku, is it true?" The detective asked carefully, recalling how breathless the teen had been when he heard their voice. "Yes," the green-haired boy replied, fiddling with his fingers and biting his lip. "Do you hate me now? For not telling you?" His voice was hushed and gentle, like a guilty child afraid of being abandoned. "Why would we hate you for that, brat? You should have told us sooner so you didn't look like such a mess earlier," Aizawa grumbled clearly. "Tired. Your dad's right, kid. Todoroki and Bakugo told you it didn't matter, right? Even when I asked them earlier, they said the same thing. Your classmates don't mind what the villain said." Tsukachi smiled. "So there's nothing to worry about. You will never be hated as long as we're here." Tears welled up in Izuku's eyes. This place truly felt warm, and he was grateful to be in such a welcoming environment. At Recovery Girl's command, Izuku left the school. Classes had ended early due to the incident. Dabi was waiting for his brother, anxious after hearing about what happened. Izuku felt a strong pair of hands on his shoulders. "Tu-chan," he called out as Dabi hummed in response. "What happened to Dad? Can I go see him?" Dabi asked worriedly. "You should go see Dad, let's go." Izuku smiled as they headed back inside the school towards Recovery Girl's office. When they arrived, their dad was already sleeping, likely exhausted from the recent events. "I'm glad Dad looks fine," Dabi whispered, watching him sleep soundly. "Well, Dad loves sleep. No wonder he looks so peaceful," Izuku joked softly. "Let's let him rest for now." He patted his brother's shoulder. "Have you gotten taller, Tu-chan? I feel like I have to reach higher for your shoulder." "Nah, you probably grew shorter," Dabi replied with a teasing sigh. Izuku grabbed his brother's wrist and decided to take a walk home with his guide dog. Leaving the school premises, the siblings took the long way to their house. It was a peaceful walk, though Dabi talked about all the civilians he had saved, which made Izuku chuckle and helped him forget his anxiety about facing his classmates the next day. But thanks to Tsukachi and his dad, he held on to hope that everything would be all right. The awaited tomorrow arrived, and Izuku felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. He thanked his brother for helping him to school and for letting his guide dog watch out for any obstacles. As he approached the classroom that had heard the vital part of his past, Kaki slid the door open for him, still concerned for his well-being. Would everything be as the detective said? The once dark world brightened as he heard worried shouts and felt suffocating hugs. His classmates asked about his quirk and praised him for his heroism. They expressed their respect and pride, assuring him that his past didn't matter. Most heroes he met had no capes, because the cape they once had was used to warm a cold soul. Detectives are always right, he thought, holding on to hope. The world can be bright even when all you see is darkness. Chapter 18. A New Light. What a warm atmosphere. Izuku craved heat. It was something that made him feel safe, unlike the lonely place he had formerly stayed at, which was unbearably cold. Here, the warmth was akin to that of a flickering candle, delicate and easily extinguished. "That was so manly, dude. You protected our teacher," one classmate exclaimed. "Don't mind them, Izuku-kun. Nobody is judging you here," another reassured him. "You'll always be labeled as a hero here, Midoriya, Karo," a third added. Izuku appreciated the warm remarks, but one question lingered in the air, waiting to be addressed. Midoriya-kun, why'd you call Aizawa-sensei Dad?" His eyes widened in surprise, recalling the emotional blunder he had made the day before. The name had slipped out unintentionally, and now he was at a loss for how to respond. "He's my dad. Did you guys really need to ask him?" Aizawa's voice cut through the chatter. He entered the room, bandages wrapped around him, a testament to his recent battles. The sight was more striking than alarming. It was clear he had faced formidable foes. "He's your dad? You mean he got someone PR'd in T?" His classmates' eyes widened in disbelief, reflecting their shock. "But doesn't he have a different surname?" "What's Midoriya from?" one asked. "Let me answer first, you brats," Aizawa replied, his scarf swirling dramatically. The class fell silent, awaiting his explanation. He took a deep breath before continuing. "I adopted the kid, turned him into an Aizawa, and made him register with his original name at UA. Wadash. That's right. The name you know is the one I knew from when I was a kid," Aizawa clarified, and Katsuki grumbled in response, having learned more about Izuku's past. "So that explains the first day. It scared us all when you acted like you were going to pick a fight with him only to end up ruffling his hair," Kirishima noted, shaking his head. "Shut up," Katsuki shot back, his tone sharp. The class was still processing the revelations, struggling to find the right words. Before anyone could break the silence, the bell rang, signaling the end of the PRD. The students returned to their seats, knowing the conversation would pick up again during lunch. And it did. The cafeteria buzzed with excitement. Amid the noise, students from different classes tried to eavesdrop but found it difficult to follow the chaotic story unfolding among the hero students. Slowly, Izuku explained what had happened, providing answers that satisfied his classmates while keeping some details private. They learned that the villain who had captured him had helped him escape from his biological father and had also aided in saving their homeroom teacher. The day passed, leaving the class feeling content, especially Izuku, whose burden felt lighter. However, another challenge loomed ahead. The sports festival? The class exclaimed in unison. Eraserhead sighed heavily. Did I stutter, brats? We'll increase security to make sure it doesn't happen again, and there will be hundreds of pro-heroes watching. They'll take action if something happens. He scratched his stubble, feeling relieved that the bandages were off thanks to Recovery Girl's quirk. Your classmate, Midoriya, will do the student pledge because if I chose Bakugo, he'd throw the whole formality off, Aizawa added, ruffling his unruly hair. There are going to be 3 events, and I have no clue what they are, so be prepared. You'll be going against classes 1B to 1K, and there's even a chance you'll go against each other. Better not mess it up. The teacher finally showed some enthusiasm, and the class felt a sense of superiority and determination as they thought about the possibilities during the sports festival. Let's see who will fall and who will triumph, shall we? After their homeroom teacher, Pro-Hero Eraserhead, explained the gist of the sports festival, the students of Class 1A were planning to go home. But their exit was blocked by students from different classes. What the hell? One student exclaimed. We can't get out. What business do you have with Class 1A? Another asked, annoyance evident on their faces. They're here to scout the enemy, you extras, Katsuki growled. You're blocking Deku's way. Move. He made his way to the front door, with Izuku and Shinso following behind. A golden-haired teen with baby blue eyes stepped forward, smirking. Era? Is this what the prestigious Class 1A is composed of? Completely confident and arrogant. What did you? Izuku started, but he quickly grabbed Katsuki's shoulder to calm him. Everyone needs to prepare for the sports festival. Let's not waste time, Kaken. Katsuki clicked his tongue. Aren't you that blind kid? How did he get into 1A and I get into 1B? Makes no sense. The teen mockingly waved his hand in front of Izuku, but was stopped when Shinso grabbed it. What's your problem? He got in through recommendation. Shinso scowled, shoving the boy's hand. But no matter, the blue-eyed boy shrugged. This is a declaration of war, Class 1A. I'll be stealing one of your positions soon. An awkward silence followed his bold remark. Hey, I heard you fought against villains, so I came to hear about it. Don't get too full of yourself, a wild silver-haired guy from Class 1B shouted, breaking the tension and earning a scowl from Katsuki. If you bark too much, it'll be embarrassing for you during the real fight. Hey, are you ignoring me? The loud teen continued to taunt Katsuki while tugging on Izuku's wrist. Katsuki dragged Izuku along, the guide dog following closely. Wait a minute, Midoriya. Bakugo, what are you going to do about this? It's your fault everyone's hating on us. Kirishima shouted. It doesn't matter, Katsuki replied curtly. It doesn't matter as long as you rise to the top, he added as he left with Izuku. That's so simple and manly, Kirishima grinned at Katsuki's words. Excuse me? Kaminari asked, confused. He's right, Rikido and Tokonami agreed, making Kaminari even more bewildered. Hang on, don't be tricked. He just made us more pointless enemies. Kaminari protested as some of Class 1A made their exit. As Katsuki dragged Izuku, they stopped suddenly. Hey nerd, was my answer right? He asked quietly. Right? Of course it was. Izuku replied, his guide dog barking in agreement. Nerd, who is that? Katsuki spat as he noticed a scarred-looking male waiting nearby. Oh, wait, does he look like a purple guy? Izuku asked, earning a confused glare from Katsuki. Do you know him? I do. He drops me off at school and picks me up every day, Izuku chuckled as they approached him. Who's he? A friend? Dabi asked, patting his brother's head. Izuku nodded. Katsuki shoved his hands into his pockets, eyeing the suspicious guy. Let's go home, Tuchan, Izuku said with a smile as his guide dog barked again. See you, Kaken, thank you. Katsuki thought, Tuchan? What kind of nickname is that? 2 weeks passed quickly, and Izuku used the time to train with his brother, becoming more coordinated with Kaki. He discovered they could expand the mist's capabilities, allowing him to use Kaki as a cloud of mist. It would be handy for getting around without his guide dog. He knew he shouldn't think too much about it, but he wondered why he needed a hero license if his intention was to save. The day of the sports festival. The students of Class 1A awaited nervously in their room, all wearing the same training uniform as before. Man, these uniforms are lame. It's only fair everyone wears the same uniform. I wonder what the first round's going to be? No matter what it is, we just have to deal with it. They chatted idly until Ida entered. Is everyone ready? We will be entering soon, he informed, earning both nervous and excited reactions. A lot of the students knew they were the ones being focused on this year. Usually it was the third years, so it became a surprise to hear the gossip. Pay attention, dear audience. Swarm, ya mass media. Pro-Hero Present Mic announced, signaling that it was time to begin. The audience roared both live and from their homes. Some were watching in glee and excitement, while others were watching in shock and guilt. This year's high school rodeo of adolescence that you all love to watch, the UA Sports Festival, is about to begin. Everybody, are you ready? Present Mic's loud voice boomed, amplified by the microphone. Their cheers made the boy nervous, as if they were actually rooting for him. It felt like there were chips on his shoulders, gnawing away at his confidence and the little self-esteem he had. It's time for this year's students to enter the first-year stage. Chapter 20, The Hero Sports Festival, PT2. It's time for this year's students to enter the first-year stage. Present Mic continued. The U.A Sports Festival. The huge battle where fledgling heroes sharpen their skills once a year. Anyways, this class are the guys. The miraculous new stars who overcame enemy attacks with their hearts of steel. Hero Course, Class 1A, am I right? The crowd roared upon seeing the students in their training uniforms of blue, red, and white. I can hear their shouts. Izuku muttered as Shinso and Todoroki were by his sides, guiding him through their mini parade. Will we be able to give our best performance being watched by so many people? Ida looked around at the filled stadium of pro-heroes gathered from all around the world. This is also part of the training required to become a brave hero, he added, catching Izuku's attention. Man, he's going overboard with that praise. Even I'm getting nervous. Aren't you too, Bakugo? Kirishima asked, looking at the blonde in front of him. No, I'm getting even more into it, Bakugo muttered, his frustration evident. This class hasn't been given much airtime, but this class is also full of talent. Hero Course, Class 1B. Present Mic introduced as the next group of students came into view. Next up, General Studies classes C, D, and E. Support course classes F, G, and H are also here too. And last but not least, Business course, classes I, J, and K. The crowd's roars grew louder as all of the first years were present. We're just here to make those guys look better, huh? A student from the General Studies class muttered. Ugh, I'm totally not feeling it. Alright everybody, it's time for the student pledge. R-rated hero Midnight announced from the stage, her outfit captivating the attention of many. Representing this year's students is Izuku Midoriya from Class 1A. The classes grew silent as Izuku made his way to the platform with Kaken's assistance, managing to stay steady. He pulled a closed-eye smile, his iconic beam of warmth radiating even in the tense atmosphere. I'll pledge that. No matter who you are, your quirk, your status or class. Everyone has the right to be a hero, and this sports festival will help us achieve what we want to become. His voice, though distant from the microphone, resonated with the first years, who were taken aback by his sincere speech. The whole stadium fell silent before a few claps echoed from Class 1A, gradually turning into a quiet applause. It felt like a formal occasion. Izuku made his way back down with Kaken's help, almost stumbling again. Now, let's get started right away. The first game is what you'd call the qualifier. Midnight announced. Yurei has a way of doing things right away, how? A student muttered. Every year, many drink their tears here. Now here is the faithful first game. A screen resembling a slot machine appeared, the words rolling. This year it's obstacle race. The screen stopped at the randomized qualifier, the title self-explanatory for the students. All 11 classes will participate in this race. The course will be the outer circumference of this stadium, about 4 kilometers. Midnight waved her short WHP around. Our school's selling point is freedom. As long as you stay on the course, it doesn't matter what you do. She chuckled, excitement evident in her demeanor. Now everyone, take your places. Students huddled around the huge door with green lights. They awaited the race to finally start. One by one, the 3 green lights flickered out, the last one signaling the go mark. Start! Students rushed through the door, unsure of what to expect. Now, let's see the play-by-play. Are you ready to commentate with me, Mystery Racerhead? Present Mike asked as Aizawa sighed. Not like I have much of a choice, he muttered. What part should we closely pay attention to? This part. Right now, Aizawa answered, pointing at the screen that showed the students. They all started to argue at the narrow shape as everyone kept pushing each other. Hey, move. No, you. It's so cramped. Izuku panicked as he was getting jostled around, unaware of his surroundings. Suddenly, he heard someone whisper to him. Midoriya, better use that quirk of yours to float up. I'm going to freeze the floor, and we'll be in the lead, okay? The two-toned male whispered, earning a nod from Izuku. The green-haired boy activated his quirk, a black cloud of mist forming around him. He hopped on and floated above the other students, smiling gently. Whoa, what's this? Student from Class 1A Izuku Midoriya is on a dark cloud. Is it his quirk? The blonde pro-hero shouted into his mic. Of course it is, the ebony pro-hero muttered. Just then, as Izuku floated up, the ground froze, and he and Todoroki advanced to the first obstacle. We have 2 leading students, Todoroki Shoto and Izuku Midoriya from Class 1A. Several students from Class 1A managed to avoid being frozen to the floor. They were greeted by several robots, the same ones they faced in the practical exams. Here we are at the first obstacle, Robo Inferno. Present Mike announced. What? It's those 0-pointers. Seriously? The hero course had to fight those? There's too many. This is what they meant by obstacles? The heterochromiac teen scowled and froze a robot, causing it to fall as Izuku floated past the other robots, swinging his feet playfully. He stopped them. Look, we can go between the legs. I wouldn't if I were you. I froze them while they were unbalanced. As if on cue, the ice began to crack and fall, making it an even tougher challenge for the students. The others were intimidated and struggled with the falling robot parts while also dealing with the remaining robots. How strategic and elegant. Isn't this kind of unfair, Mystery Racerhead? The blonde pro-hero exclaimed. It isn't. He was just executing a strategy, Aizawa replied. As expected of someone who got in through recommendations. The 2 were ahead, and soon a certain blonde caught up with them, using explosions to propel himself forward. A few more students from the same class followed closely behind. They all stopped as the second obstacle came into view. Ah, the first obstacle was easy. Then let's see how well you'll do in this one. The second obstacle course, the fall. Present Mike shouted enthusiastically. A student from the hero support class showcased their gadgets, breezing through the first half of the rocky platforms. Izuku smiled as he floated past, with Todoroki and Bakugo closely following. It seemed like every obstacle was easy for them. Katsuki had a piece of metal with him, looking like he was prepared for anything. What are you holding? Izuku asked briefly. Something that flew close to me. I figured it'd be handy, Katsuki replied. The green-haired boy nodded at his explanation. Katsuki muttered under his breath as he caught up to both Todoroki and Izuku. The audience watched in awe, discussing the 2 leading students. They referred to Todoroki as Endeavor's son and Izuku as a dark horse. Todoroki stopped as the cloud of mist did. Here we are. The final barrier. It's a minefield. There are mines everywhere if you look closely. These mines are nerfed and only used for games. Better try to avoid them on the ground. Present Mike explained, even offering a tip. Unlike the other obstacles, the cloud of mist vanished. but the piece of metal remained held by a black liquid-like mist that came into view. Izuku and Katsuki quickly devised a plan to secure first place. Todoroki and Katsuki raced past the mines, avoiding them from above while sparring with each other. The green-haired boy backed up a bit, gripping the metal piece tightly. The other students began navigating the minefield. Katsuki dug and quickly gathered the mines from underneath, creating a pile in the starting area. Izuku ran forward, jumped with the metal scrap as a shield. "What's this? What is he doing?" the blonde pro-hero exclaimed as he stood from his seat. The impact created a huge explosion, sending dust flying everywhere and causing the students in front of him to cough and shield themselves. Todoroki and Katsuki looked back, surprised to see their friend zooming past them. It's a comeback for Izuku Midoriya as he used the explosions from the start to boost himself. "What a smart move," Present Mike announced. The two former leading students stopped slowing each other down and are now chasing after Izuku Midoriya. "What an intimidating pursuit." "What a gutsy move, nerd," Katsuki muttered, trying to catch up. "That was really smart," Todoroki said, creating an ice path, knowing he would leave a trail for others. Izuku was quickly losing speed and needed to think about how to land, but Katsuki had other plans. He wrapped himself around Izuku's arms and legs, assuring him that they would take care of it. Just as Katsuki and Todoroki were neck and neck with him, Izuku used their backs to position himself for another explosion. He slammed the metal in the middle, creating a huge smokescreen while propelling himself forward. "Would you look at that? He made it past the minefield in an instant. Eraserhead, your students are amazing. Just what are you teaching them?" Present Mike exclaimed into the mic, close to Aizawa's ears. "I didn't do anything. They got each other fired up on their own," the pro-hero replied proudly despite his ringing ears. Todoroki and Katsuki emerged from the smoke, continuing to pursue their leading classmate. Izuku was blitzing across the ground as Katsuki extended himself, propelling Izuku with every leap he made. He was swiftly approaching the finish line. Who could have predicted the surprising developments at the beginning or this conclusion? Right now, the first person back at the stadium is the one and only Izuku Midoriya from Class 1A. The crowd roared loudly, with some standing from their seats. His face was broadcast all over the web, and he wore a gentle, closed-eye smile while he heard their cheers. "Hey, isn't he that kid who faced the Nomu?" Snipe muttered, and a fellow pro-hero nodded. "But alas, there is always a darker side." "What a hero," he mocked. "We've got you now, Izuku. Sensei will be happy to get you back." Soon after, the green-haired boy finished, with Todoroki taking second and Katsuki third place. The heterochromatic teen patted Izuku's head, congratulating him. "That was really good, Midoriya. You deserve it." "Thanks, Todoroki-kun. You played smartly. I would have struggled with that large crowd earlier if you hadn't told me about your plan," Izuku chuckled. "And now they're finishing one after another," Present Mike announced as students slowly completed the obstacle race. "Now, look at the results." Midnight gestured to the screen, which displayed the students' placements, showing their class, name, and picture. The top 42 made it to the next round. "It's unfortunate, but don't worry if you didn't make it. We've prepared other chances for you to take the spotlight. The real competition begins next. The press cavalry will be all over it. Give it your all." She waved her WHP as the second competition was about to be decided. "Now then, here is the second game. I already know what it is, but what could it be? What could it be? I just said it and now here it is. Cavalry battle." The screen stopped as the students took a moment to comprehend the second game. A cavalry battle? Darn, I'm bad at those. It's not an individual event, so I wonder how it'll work. Oh, a cavalry battle. So exciting, the students murmured about the upcoming competition. Let me explain. The participants can form teams of 2 to 4 people as they wish. It's basically the same as a regular cavalry battle, but the one thing that's different is, based on the results of the last game, each person has been assigned a point value. A point-based battle just like that entrance exam, huh? That's easy to understand, a student from Class A muttered. In other words, each team is worth different points depending on who's on the team, Uraraka added, which Mina agreed with. You guys don't hold back even though I'm talking, huh? Midnight shouted. Yes, that's right. And the points assigned start from the very bottom. 42nd place has 5 points, 41st place gets 10 points. And the point value assigned to first place is 10 million, she shouted, alarming the students and nearly giving Izuku an unexpected heart attack. This 10 million? Izuku muttered as most students looked at him, determination surging through their veins. In other words, if you take down the first place player's team, you can stand at the top no matter what place you're in. Everyone began to strategize on targeting the young boy. That's right. It's survival of the fittest, with a chance for those at the bottom to overthrow the top. Those at the top will suffer more. You'll hear this many times as you attend UE. This is what plus ultra means. Midnight grinned, seeing the power-hungry faces of the students. Now then, let me explain the rules of the cavalry battle. The time limit is 15 minutes. Each team is worth the total of its members' points, and the riders will wear a headband with that number on their foreheads. Teams will try to grab each other's until time runs out and try to keep as many points as they can. Stolen headbands must be worn from the neck up. So the more you steal, the harder it will be to manage them. And the most important thing is that even if your headband gets stolen or if your team falls, you're not out. Which means, since there are 42 people, there will be 10 or 12 teams on the field the whole time, one student wondered. That's tough. One strategy is to let someone take your points first so you'll be more free, Mina suggested. It's hard to say without seeing how all the points end up getting split up, Azui replied. During the game, it'll be a fierce fight where you can use your quirks, but it is still a cavalry battle. You'll get a red card for attacks that are trying to make people fall on purpose. You'll be removed immediately, she announced. Now then, you have 15 minutes to build your teams. Start. Students began to disperse, trying to persuade others to team up. 2 individuals patted Izuku's shoulders, startling him. Midoriya. Zukuen. Yua. Toshi, Todoroki-kun. Would you like to team up with me? He asked. As the 2 smiled, Shinso replied, Why would I even come here if I didn't want to team, stupid? Todoroki echoed the sentiment. That's so unfair. I was going to ask you to team up with me, Todoroki-kun. Mina pouted before excusing herself to persuade Katsuki. Just as he was about to respond, an eccentric-looking girl approached them. Hey, let's team up. You have room for one more person, right? I'm Mei Hatsum from the support course. It'll be such an advantage to show off my inventions with the first placer on my team, she explained excitedly. Is sure? Hi. I'm Izuku Midoriya, he said, extending a hand. She eagerly shook it. So now we're a full team? Shinso muttered as the 3 nodded at him. Other teams from the classes were planning to challenge not only the top contenders but Class A in general. Let's let that arrogant Class A know, guys, a blonde male with blue eyes said, eager to humiliate them. Now then, it's about time to get started. Midnight chimed as the timer ran out. Hey, come on, wake up, Eraser. It's starting. Present Mike nudged him as the underground hero stirred. After 15 minutes to form teams and discuss strategies, 12 cavalry teams are lined up on the field. Aizawa observed. Raise those battle cries. It's time for U.A's battle. Light the signal fire. Izuku was the rider, with Shinso supporting him from the left, Mei on his right, and Todoroki defending in front. They were connected by a rope-like mist around their wrists, and Izuku floated up, taking a seat on a black cloud that extended to the others. Soon all the teams were in place, each holding different positions. I'm not going to ask if you're ready or not. Now let's go. Counting down for the battle royal. Present Mike shouted. 3, 2, 1. Start. Midnight waved her WHP. The groups ran, supporting their riders as they charged toward Izuku's team. Quickly, Todoroki created an ice wall to shield them while Katsuki extended himself, grabbing a team's headband and sliding it onto Izuku's neck. It was a band with 173 points. Other teams began targeting different headbands, realizing how strong Izuku's team was. They wore mechanical boots designed by Mei for added advantage. Katsuki and his team went after nearly every headband, avoiding Izuku's team out of respect. Soon, others who made unsuccessful attempts against the leading team shifted their focus elsewhere. A few minutes into the game, Present Mic updated the audience on each team's points. Now, let's see. What's this? Other than Midoriya's team, Class A isn't doing so well. His eyes widened. Team Bakugo? 0 points, he announced, causing the crowd to see a blonde rider remove his headband. Class A is so simple-minded, he mused as he tied 3 headbands around his neck. What did you say, BSTRD? Give it back. I'll get you for this. Katsuki growled, staring down his rival. Since Midnight said this was the first game, it wouldn't make sense for them to eliminate many people in the qualifier, right? Assuming they'd keep about 40 for the next stage, we just made sure we stayed within that number as we ran. We observed the quirks and personalities of those who would be our rivals. There's no point in obsessing over winning in the prelims, right? He had a dark aura surrounding him, as if he were the wrench that disrupted their plans. You planned this as a class? Katsuki asked. Well, it wasn't a consensus, but it was a good idea, right? He replied, just as another team approached. It's better than going after a temporary top, like a horse with a carrot in front of its face. While I'm at it, you're famous, aren't you? The victim of the sludge accident. Tell me about that sometime, about how it feels to be attacked by villains once a year. The male continued to provoke Katsuki, intensifying his anger. Kirishima. Change of plan. Before we take everyone's headbands, let's take these guys down first. Katsuki declared, his pressure intimidating even his teammates. Class B had a long-term strategy that involved throwing the qualifier, They could leave a stronger impression by turning the tables against Class A before the sports festival even started. But based on their strategy, they don't have to come for us, do they? Izuku mumbled, hearing more clearly than others due to his heightened senses. His teammates nodded as they continued to execute their plan of running until the timer ran out. Less than half the time is left now. The cavalry battle is about to enter the second half. In this unexpected rise of the Hero Course Class 1B, who will wear the 10 million points in the end? It seemed like a few other groups were heading for the leading team. One group was composed of Kaminari, Yaozu, Jiro, and Ida, with Kaminari as their rider. Man, who knew that we'd have to fight Midoriya? Kaminari grinned, realizing they had no choice but to engage. Yet they weren't the only ones targeting the group with the highest points. Teams from other classes also ran in their direction. Yaozu, make an electricity conductor. Let's immobilize the others first, Kaminari instructed, trying not to get distracted by her open uniform. Gotcha. She quickly created what he asked, forming a black rod-like staff that reached the ground and a blanket that could reflect Kaminari's lightning. Indiscriminate shock. 1.3 million volts. He screamed as the blanket covered them, paralyzing almost everyone targeting Izuku. Kaken quickly extended into a shield, blocking the lightning. Todoroki took advantage of this and froze the ground. The 3 levitated off the ground thanks to Mei's gadgets, which were surprisingly convenient in the current situation. With the blanket covering their line of sight, Kaminari's team didn't expect the sudden chill in their feet as the other teams couldn't escape the freezing ice their opponent had created. What's this? Todoroki turned the tables against them and quickly took out the crowd of teams in an instant. Present Mic announced. He took advantage of the situation and froze them after Kaminari's shock stopped them. I guess it should be expected. He took into account how many people avoided it in the obstacle course. Looks like you're stuck here, Shinso chuckled. Yaozu quickly analyzed the situation and made a huge ice pick to get them off the chilling ice. Let's get out of here. We have enough points to get top 4, and we cannot risk losing it to them, she whispered as Ida activated his quirk, and the group took off in the span of a second. Why you? A group from Class C got caught in Shinso's quirk? How unfortunate. Give me your headband, he instructed, and their glazed eyes obeyed his command, smoothly handing over the headband with 212 points, earning them more points. Let's go at them, Kirishima. I'm as calm as I'll ever be. Katsuki let out a few explosions created by his sweat, determined to get back the points they lost. We're seriously counting on you, Kirishima shouted as Siro and Mina nodded in agreement. Go! They ran at Monoma's team, Katsuki's face full of determination. As Monoma dodged Katsuki's attack, the light blonde's face was almost charred from the intensity. Smoke engulfed his sight. This guy had copied his quirk. The golden-haired male lightly brushed over Kirishima's hair before retracting his arm. What a nice quirk you have, Monoma snickered, earning a scowl from Katsuki. Bakugo, someone has the same quirk as you, too? Kirishima shouted, glancing at his raging friend. Dim it. Katsuki swung his right hand, explosions erupting from it. He was sure he hit him as smoke surrounded the other rider. You all have nice quirks, Monoma started as the smoke began to clear. Mine's better though. He grinned, blocking Katsuki's attack with his hardened arm. What the hell, that's mine. Is it the same again? Katsuki cut him off. No, it isn't, this guy copied them. He clicked his tongue. Bingo! That's right. The blue-eyed male maneuvered his hand. Well, even an idiot can figure it out, huh? He pointed to the side of his own head. Now! A white muddy liquid blocked the two, as if to take the chance and steal a headband. Ah, picking a fight I see, Monoma remarked, staring at his opposing classmates. Monoma, let's escape. We just have to keep from getting caught now. With this many points, we'll definitely make it to the top 4. His teammate urged him, trying to temper his confidence. The 3 supporting Monoma escaped as Katsuki stared at their backs. Let's go after them, the blonde ordered, but Kirishima was having trouble. Hey, it's solidifying. I can't move my leg, the redhead informed him, his feet stuck in the ivory mud. Hold on, I've got this. I'll melt it with my quirk, Mina told them, activating her ability. Hurry up. We're at 0 points right now. We need to catch up. Siro reminded them worriedly. Monoma looked back. Oh, don't get mad at me. You're the one who provoked us, isn't that right? What did you say back in the classroom? That embarrassing thing, let me think. Oh well, you've tried enough for today. This was definitely frustrating Katsuki more than his teammates expected. The blonde clearly remembered what he said back then. Not just rise to the top, I'll be number 1 and I'll take an indisputable first place, he growled. The crowd cheered. 1 minute left. Present Mike announced. The teamwork of the other team made it so they'd have the 10 million to seize themselves in an instant. The spectators saw the reinforced fence using Kaminari's lightning, Jiro's long earplugs, and Yaoyorozu's smart thinking. Izuku and his team tried to pry away by force, but unfortunately, they would instantly be electrocuted if they tried. Well, at least that's what I thought 5 minutes ago. But unbelievably, Team Midoriya has managed to stay out of reach in that cramped space for 5 minutes. Yaoyorozu's team barely moved diagonally to the left, trying to close in on the other team. Fortunately, the ebony-haired female realized that Izuku's quirk had a range. As long as they didn't step too close, they would be safe. This was convenient since her teammates had long-range quirks, except for Ida. Izuku was making the calls. Todoroki would have blasted them with ice already if it weren't for their rider. The green-haired boy reasoned that it would only make them more cramped and that the opposing team would easily dodge because of Ida's speed and Yaoyorozu's keen sight. He was relying heavily on Kaken right now, which wasn't good for his mental state, but they had no choice. He wanted to keep his headband no matter what. Second place, huh? We might have done a little too well for ourselves. Anyway, let's focus on keeping that spot, Monoma said with a satisfied smile. Wait. I said wait, damn it. Bakugo shouted. Geez, he's so persistent. As a hero, not to mention as a person, that persistence will. They turned to see Bakugo propel himself from the air, hungry for that headband. Hey, don't act on your own, Bakugo. Kirishima screamed as Monoma quickly called to his teammate. Tsuburaba, guard, he shouted as a brown-haired male engulfed air and blew it right where Katsuki was about to land. It solidified into a platform for Katsuki and a shield for them. You can't break that wall, serves you right. Tsuburaba grinned as they prepared to escape. Demon you. Katsuki pulled his arm back and punched the wall harshly. It shattered like glass. He managed to grab the back of the headband, startling Monoma. He got two, one of Monoma's teammates informed as Katsuki fell back, Siro's tape catching him just before he hit the ground. Team Bakugo seizes 2 headbands and moves to 3rd place. The rankings keep changing in the final places. It's the passion of youth. Present Mike shouted as several teams went after Monoma. He defended their last headbands while Tsuburaba and Monoma kept using the brown-haired boy's solidified air. It was very handy for the D-men. Monoma clicked his tongue. It's okay, we're in 4th. Tsuburaba reminded him that all hope was not lost. Let's play safe for now, Bakugo. We got our points. Not yet. We're gonna get that indisputable 1st place. He repeatedly gave Kirishima soft head punches. Class B's strategy was certainly reasonable and good. But there's one unfortunate thing, Aizawa commented, watching the scene unfold. I couldn't brace myself enough earlier on my own. Go! Katsuki instructed as he charged at Monoma's team again. We'll get all their points and then go for the 10 million, he declared, making his 3 teammates smile. Geez, they grinned. Siro blasted his tape, and it looked like he missed, while Mina spewed out her acid as they slid rapidly toward Monoma's team, stripping them of headbands. Team Bakugo is merciless. If they're going to do it, they're going to be thorough. What a perfectionist. Present Mike shouted again. Katsuki went straight for Yairuzu's team, hoping to gain more points, but just as he propelled off, the buzzer sounded. Time's up. That's the end of the 2nd round, the cavalry battle. Katsuki fell flat on his face, hitting the ground. Bakugo, are you okay? Kirishima asked as they rushed to where he fell. Now, let's take a look at the top 4 teams right away. The loud pro-hero finger gun to no one. In 1st place, we have Team Midoriya. The crowd cheered, and the team sighed in relief. In 2nd place, Team Bakugo. The audience continued their cheers. In 3rd place, let's give it up for Team Yairuzu. Present Mike shouted as the spectators howled in glee. And finally, in 4th place, we have Team Aoyama. When did you come from behind? The pro-hero raised his voice as the crowd murmured in confusion but nonetheless shouted for their accomplishment. Thanks for your hard work, he finger-gunned as the 3 glared, but their teammates were glad to be in the top 4. These 4 teams will advance to the final round. Now, we'll take an hour's break for lunch before we start the afternoon festivities. See you later, the loud pro-hero announced as the spectators began to disperse. Yo, Eraserhead, let's grab some grub. No, I'm going to sleep. Students from Class 1A began to congratulate their fellow classmates, some feeling envious that they couldn't compete. I endeavor. Long time no see, shall we have some tea? All Might flashed his iconic smile as the fiery hero turned around to see him. All Might. I haven't seen you since that talk we had with the press 10 years ago, huh? I saw you, so I thought I'd say hi. The number 1 pro-hero chuckled. I see. Well, you've already done that. Leave me. Endeavor turned and began walking away. What a joke. I'm going to the restroom, begone, he muttered, leaving the superior pro-hero behind. At least that's what the fire-based hero thought. Now, don't be so cold. All Might blocked his way. Your son, young Shoto, did wonderfully without even using half of his power. I expected that from the son of the number 2 hero. Is it because he was taught well? He grinned. What are you trying to say? Endeavor asked, suspicions rising. Why, I just seriously want to know how to raise the next generation. All Might shrugged, his smile still evident. Do you think I'd ever tell you? You look clueless and naive as usual, and it's getting on my nerves. The inferior pro-hero bumped his shoulder and walked a few steps away. Sorry, All Might stated, his smile wavering. Just remember this, I will make that boy into a hero that will surpass you one day. He started, that's the only reason why I'd bother to create him. What are you implying? All Might's sweat dropped. He's in his rebellious stage right now, but he will definitely surpass you. I will make sure of it. Endeavor turned around, glaring at the hero behind him. Now that lunch is over, it's finally time to reveal the last game. But before that, there's good news for all of you that didn't make it to the finals. This is just a sports festival. So we've prepared recreational games that everyone can participate in, too. We've even brought cheerleaders from the USA to liven things up. Present Mike fingergunned, shouting into his mic. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. What's this? What's the matter, classe? What kind of fan service is that? The blonde pro hero tilted his shades down. Kaminari! You tricked us, didn't you? Momo screamed as Kaminari snickered quietly. Ugh, why did we have to fall for this scheme? I even used my quirk to create these outfits, Yaoyorozu drooped. Damn it, we shouldn't have believed him. Jairu threw her pom-poms to the ground. Well, there's still time before the finals, and it'd be a real pain if things got super tense. It's fine, pay no mind. Let's do this. Hagakure waved her pom-poms around. Toru-chan, you really like this, huh? Tsuyu smiled as it looked like Hagakure was nodding. All right everyone, let's have fun competing in the recreational games. When that's over, the 16 from the 4 teams that made it to the final round will duke it out tournament style, one-on-one. Yamada announced to the spectators. The last round is a tournament where we fight one-on-one, huh? I'm going to stand on the stage that I watch every year on TV. Kirishima pumped his fist into the air. Was last year also a tournament? Mina asked. It's different every year, but there's always a one-on-one competition. Last year it was a sports chambra match. Siro answered. Now, let's draw lots to determine the bracket. Once the bracket is determined, we'll have the recreational games and then start. The 16 finalists can choose whether or not they'll participate in the recreation. I'm sure some of you want to rest or reserve your strength. Midnight winked. Excuse me, Ojiro raised his hand. I'm withdrawing. The students looked at him as if he were crazy. Was it fear? Or something else? Why will you do that? This is a rare chance for the pros to see you. Ida told him while doing his quirky mannerisms. I just got carried by my team, I didn't do anything. I know this is a huge opportunity and it's foolish to waste it, but everyone here competed by giving their all. I would rather do this than continue striving even if I knew I didn't do anything during the second game. He explained, sighing and clenching his fists. You're worrying too much about it. You should just make sure you produce results in the finals. Hagakure waved her pom-poms, trying to persuade him to take back his withdrawal. If you're going to say that, then I didn't do anything either. Mina placed her arm to her chest. That's not what it is. I'm talking about my pride here. I can't. Ojiro covered his face with a hand. I also would like to withdraw for the same reason. Without the carry, I wouldn't have placed so high, Jairu admitted. What's with you, Ojiro? Jairu? You're so manly. Kirishima teared up. This is an unusual turn of events. The loud commentator finally used a normal volume to commentate. We'll have to see what the chief umpire, Midnight, has to say about this. Youthful talk like that is something. Midnight whipped her WHP around. Ojiro, I accept your withdrawal. She grinned. In that case, we'll have to move 2 people up from the 5th place cavalry team. Midnight tapped her chin. If that's going to happen, then rather than us, who barely did anything during the cavalry battle, it should be them, right? An orange-haired girl turned to her teammates, who were nodding. It should be the ones who fought to the end and stayed in the top. Team Tetsu, right? She smiled. Kendo. Tetsu muttered as his teammates hesitated. This isn't collusion or anything. It just makes sense. Kendo grinned, giving a thumbs up. You guys. He started to tear up as his teammates decided who were going to move up. And so, Tetsu and Shiozaki have moved up to make 16. This is the bracket based on the results of the drawing. Midnight announced as the crowd went wild. Tetsu versus Kirishima. Again. This is too redundant. The two said almost simultaneously. Tokoyami versus Yaoyorozu. I hope we have a good battle, Tokoyami bowed. Ishido versus Aoyama. Merci. Too bad you got me as your opponent. Aoyama chuckled. Shiozaki versus Midoriya. The first placer? She muttered. Todoroki versus Shiro. How am I so unlucky? Shiro sighed. Uraraka versus Bakugo. Ha! Uraraka? Bakugo questioned himself. Ida versus Hatsum. I hope my babies will get featured, she giggled. Kaminari versus Shinso. Alright, let's leave the tournament aside for a momentary interlude. Let's have fun with the recreation. Present Mike announced into his mic. First is the scavenger hunt. The recreational games began, and the students had tons of fun competing with each other. But even though they were told to relax, those in the tournament couldn't help but feel nervous. Some polished their strategies against their opponents, while others tried to keep their presence of mind. Some sharpened their senses, some prepared for the fight, and some worked to calm their nerves. As they tended to their own business, the tournament was about to begin. Cementos created the stage, finishing sooner than the participants would have liked. Okay, pretty much done. Thank you, Cementos. Yamada gave a thumbs up that the pro hero ignored. Hey guys, are you ready? The blonde hero started pumping everyone up for the last game of the day. The crowd went wild, cheering loudly and getting excited for the main event. A lot has happened, but it has all come down to this. A serious battle. You can only depend on yourself. Even if you're not a hero, you'll face many situations like that. You get it, right? Heart, skill, body, wisdom, and knowledge. Use all of that to rush up. Present Mike continued to hype the spectators. Audience, the finals that you've all been waiting for is finally starting. Match number 1. The kid who has overcome challenges to stay at the top, from the hero course, Midoriya Izuku. Versus the appealing female who made it to the final 16, also from the hero course, Shiozaki Ibara. The crowd cheered, clearly excited for the first match between the leading student and the one who barely made it to the final 16. How would this play out? The rules are simple. Force your opponent out of bounds or immobilize them. You can also win by making your opponent say, I give up. Ready? Start. The blonde pro hero signaled. The minute it started, Ibara began using her quirk, rapidly trying to immobilize Izuku. Unfortunately, just as the vines from her hair were about to reach him, a large black hole swallowed them up. The boy smiled, unaware of Kaki's doing. Let's do our best, Shiozaki-san. She retracted her vines, her effort proving useless. It was Izuku's turn to attack. The circular mist disappeared, and a dark shadow-like mist loomed from behind him, intimidating both his opponent and the spectators. Similar to Ibara's vines, black tentacle-like forms shot straight at her. But she managed to block it with her vines, creating a shield that seemed to deflect the malleable mist. However, her quirk wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Looks like our two challengers have similar quirks. How will this battle play out? Yamada shouted, doing his best to commentate the unusual match. Kaki, let's not go too hard, alright? I'm worried I might overuse you. Roger that. Even I won't be able to control it if I get overused. The tentacle-like forms retracted, and Ibara attacked him the same way as before, which Izuku countered with another black hole. Out of the corner of everyone's eyes, another form of mass moved under the concrete platform. It soon reached the bottom of Ibara's feet and revealed itself, surprising the audience and his opponent. Before Ibara could defend herself, she was tightly wrapped up in a mass of dark matter. The crowd roared as she was silently lifted into the air. Game over. I didn't see that coming. The winner for this round is Izuku Midoriya, who will advance to round 2. Who knew Midoriya's quirk could come from behind? Midnight announced, waving her WHP as the crowd cheered for his victory. Ooh, it was kind of a boring match with the similar quirks, but nonetheless, we should praise them for a fight that relied on wits. Present Mike shouted. Ibara sighed, feeling down. I knew I wouldn't win anyway. Izuku heard her woes and walked forward a few steps. You did really great. It was hard to win against someone with a similar quirk. He smiled brightly, reminiscent of All Might. Keep doing your best. She gawked, speechless. Thank you. You too. Iber grinned. What the sentimental ending and a good example of sportsmanship. Let's move on to the next matches. UA's commentator announced as the two challengers left the stage. You did really good, Zukuen. That was really smart, Midoriya. It was obvious that the nerd would win. Izuku's closest friends greeted him, causing the boy to get startled. Thanks, guys. I wish you luck in the upcoming matches. His classmates gathered around him, showering him with compliments that could make anyone flustered. Soon, the next matches came up. Ashido Mina vs Yuga Oyama. Winner, Ashido Mina. It was a bit one-sided thanks to Mina's strategy. Aoyama was a bit too cocky. That was totally one-sided. She completely outplayed Aoyama. I drew Kirishima vs Tetsu. The fight was endless with constant punches countering each other. The match started off well but began to drag. Oh come on, we all expected that. The two had similar quirks. We'll do a tie-breaker after this match. Momo Yaoyorozu vs. Tokoyami Fumikage winner. Tokoyami Fumikage. It was a constant battle of wits, but unfortunately, Yaoyorozu was too slow to create weapons to counter Tokoyami's strategic attacks. What an intense match. Give them a round of applause. Todoroki Shoto vs Hanta Siro winner. Todoroki Shoto. This match was definitely one-sided. The tape-based quirk user got immobilized in freezing ice. That's a wrap. As expected from the son of the number 2 hero. Ida Tenya vs Mei Hatsum winner. Ida Tenya. It was more of an advertisement than a fight, as Mei forfeited after showcasing her mechanisms to the hero agencies, which was disappointing for her opponent. What a boring match. I feel sorry for the winner. Kaminari vs Hitoshi Shinso winner. Hitoshi Shinso. Kaminari immediately fell for Shinso's trap, causing him to run out of bounds. The spectators hoped the second round would be much more exciting with the powerful participants. Bakugo Katsuki vs Ochako Uraraka winner. Bakugo Katsuki. This match was the most exciting of all. Uraraka created opportunities for herself, surprising the crowd. Unfortunately, Katsuki was able to counter her surprise attack, crushing her hopes of winning. It was time for Kirishima and Tetsu's tiebreaker, a game of arm wrestling. Fortunately, Kirishima won after a few minutes of struggling against his opponent. That's it for the first round. Let's get started for the second round already. Yamada announced as the crowd roared. Already? Izuku bit his lip. He and Kaken weren't well rested enough. But they needed to pull through for today. Everyone was giving their best after all. Round 2. Izuku and Mina stood across from each other, sweat slipping away from Mina's face as she stared down her closed-eye opponent. Start! The pink-skinned woman lunged at Izuku, spewing acid from her hands in hopes of winning. But it was futile against the black hole he could create. Izuku stepped back as a black circle formed in front of him, swallowing her acid. It didn't affect anything other than making Kaken feel ill. Mina used acid on her feet and slid toward Izuku, hoping to get him out of bounds instead. She was about to grab him, but Izuku dodged her flying body unexpectedly. That was all the spectators could think of as the match ended with the black, malleable mass wrapping around Mina and sending her out of bounds. Izuku Midoriya advances to the quarterfinals. Let's give them a round of applause. Present Mike shouted as the crowd cheered. The boy did wonders even with his challenges. I drew Kirishima vs Tokoyami Fumikage winner. Tokoyami Fumikage. Unfortunately, Kirishima didn't pay attention to the ground because he was too busy defending himself against Tokoyami's attacks, which subtly pushed him backward. The match ended quickly. The same trick was used yet again. Could Tokoyami use this to win first place? Todoroki Shoto vs Ida Tenya winner. Todoroki Shoto. It was evident Ida was about to win when he pulled Todoroki by the collar, but unfortunately, Todoroki clogged his engine and froze almost his whole body apart from the head, immobilizing Ida. Man, looks like these fights are more intense than the first round. Hitoshi Shinso vs Bakugo Katsuki winner. Bakugo Katsuki. It was an intense match as Shinso tried to intimidate and infuriate the blonde, but surprisingly, Katsuki kept calm and didn't utter a word. With the constant sparring and Katsuki's frequent explosions, Shinso was thrown out of bounds. Yahoo! And that concludes the second round. We'll soon be moving on to the third round or the quarterfinals. Yamada announced as first place became more attainable for the winners. Third round Tokoyami's side in relief. Izuku didn't have light-related quirks like the other two participants, which was a lucky matchup for him. Start. Dark Shadow immediately lunged toward Izuku but ended up getting flung away by the boy's quirk. The sight was unfortunate as Tokoyami's quirk was out of bounds. Dark Shadow couldn't fight any longer, leading to Izuku's opponent forfeiting. How boring! I didn't expect such one-sidedness in the quarterfinals. Bakugo Katsuki vs Todoroki Shoto winner. Bakugo Katsuki. The fight was balanced, but because Todoroki was too stubborn to use his left side, it was the reason he lost the match. Looks like it's decided. The finals. Midoriya Izuku vs Bakugo Katsuki. They got a quick break before being sent out to the platform. Finals? Food. Better put up a good fight or I won't look good. Katsuki smirked at his childhood friend. It was bound to happen at some point. Of course, Kaken. Let's not disappoint the audience. Izuku smiled, with Kaken popping out and looming over the blonde male. Start. Katsuki created a large smoke screen that also affected him, but he knew Izuku couldn't move very well because of his challenges. It was a shame he was one of the many who didn't know about Kaken's presence. The blonde lunged forward, smiling slightly to see the boy standing still. It seemed like it would be his win. Izuku slightly moved his hand and positioned himself just as his friend was about to attack. That was close, the green-haired boy muttered while grinning. Damn it, Deku. Not gonna give me an easy win, huh? Katsuki snickered. The smoke cleared, revealing Izuku's slightly charred arm. First contact. Looks like Midoriya blocked Bakugo's attack. Present Mike shouted into his mic. A mass lunged at Katsuki, but he defended himself with an explosion, causing it to retract. The match continued as they exchanged attacks, neither giving in. Izuku took a few steps back, his eyes becoming unfocused and glazed over. He grinned, but it was an eerie, intimidating smile. What a bummer, I can't open these eyes. Izuku tried to force his eyes open with his hands, but it was futile. What the heck? You aren't Deku, are you? Katsuki questioned, shrugging. I'm just here to do my job, to beat you so I can win. The chill in his voice made the spectators shudder. I'm fighting with Deku, damn it. Bring him back. The blonde lunged at him, creating massive explosions to propel himself, engulfing them both in smoke. After what felt like minutes, the smoke cleared, and the crowd gasped at the sight. Izuku was choking Katsuki, as if the previous attack had been useless. With a flick of his wrist, he sent Katsuki crashing into the wall, out of bounds. Izuku slumped to the ground afterward. Midoriya Izuku is the victor. That concludes the finals. We shall head to the awarding ceremony. The two boys were taken to the clinic right after the tournament, and it wasn't long before they woke up. Where am I? Izuku asked, yawning. You are at the clinic, Recovery Girl replied. Did I lose? He asked, confusion evident. You don't remember? Remember what? Katsuki glanced at Izuku, wondering if he truly didn't recall the fight. You won, you demon nerd. Why don't you remember? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Must have hit my head, Izuku reasoned, scratching his head. The door slid open, revealing All Might. It's good that you're awake, my boys. The awarding ceremony is about to start, so I was tasked to pick you two up. He smiled. Teach, Katsuki grumbled, stuffing his hands in his pockets. Don't take it to heart, Kaken. We'll do a rematch some other time. Izuku beamed, his smile much brighter than before. All of the first-year events for this year's Yuta Sports Festival have been completed. Now, we will begin the awarding ceremony, Midnight announced, smiling as the press took pictures. The crowd erupted in cheers as fireworks lit up the sky. Smoke billowed from the front, revealing 3 pedestals of varying heights. The top 3 students appeared. Izuku noticed Todoroki looking stiff, not from the media but from the bright lights. Katsuki wore his usual scowl, while Todoroki maintained his stone-cold expression. Now, we will award the medals. Midnight winked. The presentation will be by none other than the number 1 pro hero, All Might. The crowd buzzed with excitement as All Might leaped from the top of the arena. I will present the medals. All Might exclaimed, smiling broadly. Now then, All Might, please present the medals starting with 3rd place. Midnight handed him a tray of medals. He placed the medal around Todoroki's neck, smiling. Congratulations, young Todoroki. You're very strong even at half power. Your dad must be proud. All Might reached in for a hug, and the heterochromiac boy remained still. But you should always go at full power with your opponents. It's an insult to them if you don't try your best. The number 1 pro hero took another medal from the tray Midnight was holding. Ah, young Bakugo. Such explosive power. Congratulations on getting 2nd place. All Might grinned, sliding the medal down until it reached the blonde's neck. He also gave him a hug. Please work on your attitude, my boy. To be calm, that's a tip to become the greatest hero in the world. Tisich, it doesn't interfere with anything, Bakugo muttered. It will be in the future, so please keep that in mind. All Might went to try for the 3rd and last time. Ah yes, young Midoriya. You showed extraordinary performances during each game. The hero leaned in to whisper, as expected from the son of my friend, Eraserhead. He chuckled again, giving the boy a hug. My boy, you have a bright future ahead of you. We all saw that you are not only strong but very strategic, even with a disadvantage such as your lack of sight. Ahem, I apologize for mentioning that, but I needed to do so because your performance was a very good example for all the first years. You truly deserve this 1st place. All Might slid the medal down as the green-haired boy gave him a smile that could rival his. Thank you, All Might. I really want to become a hero like you. Izuku rummaged around for the medal, holding it tightly once he found it. Well, here are the winners this time. But listen here, anyone could have ended up on these podiums. It's just as you saw, competing, improving each other, and climbing further. The next generation of heroes is definitely sprouting. All Might said in an inspiring speech, pointing his finger in the air. So, I just have one more thing to say. Everyone, please say it with me. Ready, go, plus ultra. Izuku was heading home with Dabi right after the sports festival. The younger was still boasting about his achievement while his brother couldn't help but listen. But Dabi had an unsettling thought while Izuku was talking. What if you asked Dad to erase your quirk for a while? Since he told us there won't be any classes for a week. He asked, patting the younger's head. Do you think it'll work? Probably. I mean, he can erase any quirk, right? Izuku nodded, confirming. Anything. Well, except mutant quirks. But I don't have a mutant quirk, so it's fine. Let's hurry home. Aizawa was not expecting this question to come from the oldest's mouth, but he had thought about it for at least a second. We could try, but let's not be too hasty, alright? I still have paperwork to do as well as filter the intern offers for all of Problem Child's classmates. Let me finish them first. Their dad's reply made the 2 siblings a bit nervous, but it was guaranteed to work. Right? The next morning came, the sky was colored a light grayish blue. It was clear it would rain later in the day, but it really wasn't something that should matter now. Aizawa and his son stood across from each other. The eldest was out on a daily patrol. I'll activate my quirk first, and then you should open your eyes, alright? His dad smiled, taking extra precaution. Okay. Eraserhead's ebony locks floated and spiraled in the air, and Izuku felt it. He hesitantly opened his eyes and stared right into his dad's eyes. What Aizawa saw was breathtaking. He had forest-colored orbs with a hint of red in them, as if it was the result of his always active quirk. Izuku wasn't expecting his dad to look like this, but he was surely as gruff as he sounded. It was nice to see his adoptive father for the first time. It was nice to see a person. He slumped down towards the green-haired boy, perhaps a bit tired. The boy wasn't sure if his quirk was removed or if his dad overused his quirk. Dad! Dabi was sprinting home because of the harsh downpour that spread through every alley. He was drenched and not happy about this. The scarred teen approached the familiar home, always a warm place for him and his brother. But today it felt very cold. Dabi looked around to see no lights turned on except for the living room. He smiled, thinking of surprising his father and his sibling. "I'm a thief." The teen kneeled down, reading the yellow sticky note his sibling probably left. "Tuchan, I'm sorry." Tuya glanced at the ivory blanket with a figure under it. Why would his younger brother leave such a worrisome note? His eyes widened, one thought passing through the eldest's mind before proceeding to lift the cloth. Seeing his father's closed eyes, it looked as if he was sleeping peacefully. The teen hesitantly placed 2 fingers on his father's neck and wrist, checking for a pulse or any sign of life. It wasn't there. He couldn't feel it. Izuku sat on a rooftop, unsure if it was someone's house or just a small building. He couldn't really care less. Kaki was feeling guilty and chose not to talk to the boy for the meantime. Everybody needs a little space sometimes, even for someone whose life had been caged until his adoptive father came and freed him from his heavy shackles. The restraints that kept him from obtaining freedom or a normal, happy childhood. Everything went downhill for him during his preteen years until Aizawa and Dabi came along. Izuku thought things might finally go his way for once. He wanted to be free of the title of a murderer and to be a normal high school kid who wanted to save others. He wanted to be a hero. It was still the boy's goal to be a hero, but who said it had to be legal? This thought briefly crossed his mind. Being a hero, no matter the way, should be acceptable. He was frustrated by the hierarchy and the way things operated in a world full of quirks. Maybe he wasn't suited to be a legal hero after all, one with a pro-hero license. Not all legal heroes wanted to save, some just sought fame and power, like many power-hungry individuals. He didn't want to do this anymore. He wasn't meant to be a hero. Killing his father was the worst thing he could have done. But he still wanted to save. Maybe becoming an illegal hero would be sufficient. No, he would not try to become a hero anymore. He felt cruel. He felt lost. But his will did not falter. He still wanted to save, for the love of everything. Dabi wasn't sure how he hadn't noticed the white piece of parchment that was always on his dad's desk. Maybe he had passed it off as just paperwork, but looking at it closely, it was addressed to them. To problem child and overheated brat, I don't know and I don't care if you read this. If you're reading this, you're being too nosy or looking for something. I'm writing this as a will, I guess. Your dad's a pro-hero, so I might die suddenly. If I'm not dead and you're reading this, get out and don't read. I'm going to feel so stupid. I might die to problem child's quirk sooner or later if we're too curious to see if I could cancel his quirk. I'm really sorry to both of you. Heck, I'm not even sure how many moments we've spent together, but they were really fun. I never wanted to have kids, let alone a noisy child and a snarky brat, but I didn't know it could be so enjoyable. Don't do anything stupid when I die. Work hard to become recognizable pro-heroes or underground heroes like me. I don't want to die, but someone like me has to be prepared, right? Dabi could see faint splodges on the paper. Did his father cry while writing this? He couldn't believe it, his dad never cried. Tuya, there's something for you in one of my drawers. I pulled a lot of strings to get it without you taking the exams. You better be grateful because that's the only thing I know you'd want. I wanted to see you be a hero, not just a sidekick, but I might fail to see that. You were really the one who saved Problem Child. I need to thank you for brightening his life, even just a little bit. I know you're the best brother he could have asked for and the best son I could have had. Even if we aren't blood-related, as cringy as it might sound, the love was still there. Problem Child, I gave you something, it's right next to Tuya's gift. Something that might be useful for you. My gift was supposed to be canceling that troublesome quirk of yours, but I don't think I can. Hell, it might be why I died. But don't ever blame yourself. Dad will always be here, and I would never blame you, so don't. I know life has been hard on you, but things finally started to go well for you. Take advantage of that. Sometimes a single decision can be so rewarding, even if it was just a split-second choice. And that decision led to me adopting the two of you and having fun. To be honest, I found my life as a hero boring, even if others say it was rewarding. My house always felt empty. But because of you two, things weren't so dreadful anymore. You two were heroes in your own ways. No matter what kind of decisions you make, I'll always forgive you. Just don't forget to forgive yourself first. He'll become a sign for the people. A symbol of hope in the darkness, because not all heroes wear capes and seek attention. Someone for people to rely on, even if it meant taking matters into his own hands. The boy will become the people's hope, not for the fame, but for them to know that he was here for everyone. He wondered how his schoolmates would react to his disappearance. Would they care? Would Katsuki get mad again? He didn't care. He chose the path of a true hero while he chose the path of a vigilante. Now Izuku really didn't plan anything when he fled the household. How was he going to hide his face? How was he going to hide his voice? The boy had no money on him. Should he just work part-time somewhere? No, they would see his face and ask why the first placer was roaming around. The boy was running out of options at this point, his mind clouding while Kaki was trying to soothe his stress. "Hey kid, you're not looking too good." Dabi sighed heavily, pacing around the house after he canceled his daily patrol and asked someone to fill in for him. He didn't know what to do or how to feel after seeing the presents his dad gave them. He opened the third drawer, revealing a few pieces of cloth and two differently shaped objects underneath. He hesitantly moved the silky cloth away, revealing items that held a lot of sentiment for him and his now-missing brother. His breath hitched as he stared at a small card that wouldn't mean much to onlookers but meant everything to him. It was a provisional hero license just for him. The ID was light blue, with a picture that looked like it was taken a few years back. It didn't matter to him because everything became a blur at that moment. As if this wasn't really happening, as if it shouldn't happen to begin with. Dabi had hated heroes from a young age due to his father's forceful mannerisms toward them, crushing any hopes he had of wanting to be a genuine savior to those who were overlooked. This led him to consider becoming a villain instead. But his adoptive father and Izuku inspired him to want to become a hero, a title he had once despised. They were his heroes, and he wanted to be just like them for others, a pillar they could lean on and believe in. Gripping his license tightly, he uttered 4 words that would determine his whole future. "I'll be a hero." "Who are you? You don't seem like the police." Izuku tilted his head back, brushing off his previous thoughts. "I'm a nobody, kid, but I might be someone someday." "What are you doing out so late? You look like a minor, middle school?" they asked, rubbing their fingers against their chin. "I'm in high school, first year." "Probably not for long, though," the boy replied, sighing and trying to avoid the former question. "But are you a runaway or something?" they joked, chortling. "I am," Izuku admitted, feeling guilty at the title. "Oh wait, I'm sorry. Were things tough at home?" The atmosphere grew more tense and serious. "No, nothing of the sort. I did something I shouldn't have and ended up reliving a life I didn't want to remember." He reasoned briefly, unsure why he was sharing such thoughts with a stranger but finding it more comfortable than confiding in someone he knew. "I wanted to be a hero, but now, I just don't know anymore. It felt like I was supposed to stay on this side." "What do you mean, this side?" "Some sort of weird code. The side where you kill or be killed, survival of the fittest while harming the innocent." They widened their eyes at the boy's shocking words. He was so young after all. "I hate to break it to you, kid, but I'm also on that side." "Does that make me on your side? Possibly our side?" they questioned further. "I knew you weren't just a shady person asking a kid who knows what, but I'm not really inclined to join the path of a villain," he chuckled shortly. "I want to save people without being seen. To be a hero who saves those who aren't being heard or seen. A hero still. Hero, a title and a status that many people longing but very few actually embody. Because most people focus on what they can gain from that title, rather than the true essence of being a hero. Only a rare few genuinely aim to help others, and those heroes were Izuku's absolute favorites. "I didn't get your name, kid. What is it?" the stranger asked. Izuku Midoriya." "You?" Izuku questioned back. "I'm Stain." "Stain? That doesn't sound like a name, but I guess I'll call you that," Izuku said, smiling. "So, have you got nowhere to go?" Stain questioned, grinning while fiddling with a blade. "Do you expect me to have somewhere to go?" "As you said, I'm a runaway," the boy replied, his mossy locks swaying in the wind. His eyes closed as if he didn't want to look at the stranger. At least, that's what Stain thought as he stared at the young high school boy whose story remained hidden. "Guess you're right, That was a stupid question. He chuckled, ruffling the boy's hair unexpectedly. I'll be your teacher. I'll educate you on all the things you need to survive in this unfair world. He offered the boy a hand. Izuku tried reaching for it, clasping it once he found it. Why are your eyes always closed? I've been meaning to ask that since I saw you, Stain asked. It has to do with my quirk. My quirk is very unique, you see, Izuku chuckled meekly. Interesting. I won't ask about it though, you'll probably feel uncomfortable. Stain awkwardly snickered, rummaging through a small brown duffel bag. He pulled out an ebony hoodie with a large rose imprinted on the back. I've seen you on the news before, he admitted. You're going to attract a lot of attention if you don't cover yourself up. Here, you don't have much of a choice. Stain handed him the hoodie, which Izuku attempted to take, wearing it over his clothes once he did. The boy gave a thumbs up, grinning. Thanks, sensei, he joked, making Stain widen his eyes but chuckle at the thought. In just a few days, Stain made a name for himself as the hero killer, and Izuku was known as Blindspot, a villain and a vigilante that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Stain taught Izuku many things, and Izuku found a new figure to look up to. Alright, what did the vigilante look like? Tsukachi asked the detained thug, unaware of the illegal hero's identity. I don't know. I suddenly got hit, and the next thing I knew, I was in front of a police station. I don't want to be here. They raised their voice, a strange shout escaping their lips. A vigilante who doesn't show himself to others, huh? Was it wrong to find both newfound skills? And friendship in the darkness? To watch as the navy blue sky came alive with the eyes of the gods, to listen as the wind whispered ancient secrets? To see the relieved sighs of passers-by, making the illegal hero believe their fate resided in him? Midnight entered the lively classroom, sweat sliding down her cheek. She felt guilty for what she was about to inform them. Midnight-sensei? What are you doing here? Where's Aizawa-sensei? Kaminari asked, though he was happy to see her. She sighed, deciding to start gently. I'm your new homeroom teacher. She smiled, expecting them to ask for the reason, which she would rather avoid but was required to share. I am so sorry to say this when there's such a good atmosphere, but your homeroom teacher, Aizawa, has unfortunately passed away due to a villain attack. Midnight hiccuped, sadness nipping at her skin as she tried to remain professional in front of the shocked, teary-eyed students. What? But that old man will never die. How did he? Katsuki shouted, standing up and slamming his hands on the desk, more furious at the villain than sorrowful for their teacher's death. Bakubro, it's not the time to shout about that. Aizawa-sensei just died, Kaminari managed to choke out, gritting his teeth. Midnight gave the class a moment to comprehend the news or to weep about the sad information they had to swallow. Unfortunately for the heroes in training, they couldn't afford to sit there all day devastated. Taking a deep breath, Midnight continued, as much as I don't want to say this right now, internships from different agencies have been offered to some of you. I would like all of you to pick an agency for your internship. Unfortunately, this sad incident isn't enough to delay this event. You need to try your best to process what has happened and move on. I know Aizawa was proud of all of you from the very start. The second he didn't expel anyone, I knew he had all his hope in this class, and I want you to make him proud. Don't let his passing hinder you, use it to drive you to do better. She bit her lip, gripping the printed sheets as tears threatened to fall after her speech. The class stared in awe and respect for their teacher's words. She was right. I will now hand out papers for you to write which agency you would like to attend. I'll also provide a list of agencies that have offered internships. Midnight smiled sadly. After handing out the sheets, the class began to think in silence about which agency they should choose. Ida knew exactly which agency he would intern with. He wanted to avenge his older brother's death by whatever means necessary. And thus, this day will change some of their lives for the better or for the worse. The internships had begun, and all of Class 1A as well as the other hero class did their job and listened well at their corresponding agencies. Ida was currently on a patrol with Manuel, who kept talking about the city and its incidents. But Ida wasn't really interested in that. All he wanted was to find the hero killer. Without the pro-hero noticing, Ida veered off the path when he heard a muffled scream from an alleyway. And there he was, the hero killer himself. The villain was so close to attacking the native pro-hero before the blue-haired Ida interrupted and charged at him. He got close to landing a punch, but the villain managed to avoid him. Another hero, coming to save the day, huh? I've had enough of your self-righteous personalities. Stain charged at Ida with a knife. The hero in training managed to dodge it, but the knife slightly grazed his cheek. He silently hissed in pain but didn't pay too much attention to the wound because of the villain in front of him. The hero killer paused, smirking. Too dim and easy. He liked the blood off his dagger, confusing Ida. The blue-haired boy was about to charge again when he suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. His body was motionless, as if he were paralyzed. It must have been his quirk, darn it. Ida thought, gritting his teeth and regretting how easy of a fight the hero killer made it seem. He also regretted the fact he couldn't avenge his brother's death. I've seen and killed enough of the likes of you. Now die for me. The villain was about to plunge a dagger into the paralyzed male but was interrupted by a spike of ice. Not again, another one of you? Stain clicked his tongue in annoyance. Todoroki, what are you doing here? Ida shouted, questioning the bi-eyed male. I heard a shout somewhere around here. My dad and I were patrolling, he briefly answered before focusing back on the hero killer. Don't let him cut you. It's his quirk, he can paralyze people. Ida spat out quickly. I see, thanks, Todoroki muttered as both he and the villain charged at one another. The bicolored-haired male dodged almost all of Stain's attacks, painfully noticing he got shallowly cut by his ankles. Gotcha! Sheet! Todoroki reached for the knife but failed. It was too late. He fell to the ground, the smell of concrete hitting his nose. Now I can kill all three of you. If another one interrupts, I'll just paralyze them too. Stain chuckled darkly, pulling the dagger back as he grabbed the bi-eyed male's neck. I'll see all the fake heroes in hell. The hero killer plunged the blade right into Todoroki's chest, the latter screaming in agony. Stain chortled at the sound. It was another murder made by the hero killer. No one was going to get in his way. Stain woke up, rubbing his eyelids. He didn't remember how he got into his apartment, and he didn't taste the metallic flavor of blood. Izuku crossed his arms, scowling at him. You almost killed my friends. They're heroes in training, you know. He sighed heavily, removing his apron and setting it on the nearest table. What? But didn't I kill them? The villain blurted out, accidentally putting the boy in a fouler mood. No, you didn't. Stain was about to plunge the sharp dagger into Todoroki's chest before a figure in a hoodie sped down and swiftly knocked the villain out. The hero killer was then wrapped in a familiar shadow-like mass, cascading away with the hero killer passed out. The three paralyzed heroes lay in shock. Were they just saved by a vigilante? The gentle whirring of the fan echoed from around the dark room to the bathroom. The 14-year-old couldn't help but reminisce about fleeting flashbacks with his adoptive father. A slow swing was swaying in his line of sight, as if it wanted to distract him from the memories. The distraction was futile as he began to pout sadly, salty tears threatening to fall from his pale face. Izuku could still remember the remaining life in his eyes, the smile that would occasionally appear, a smile that was a miracle to see. And oh, the soft voice that made him feel safe from the horrors of the world. The man was his savior, who took the boy away from a life of hardship. But he made it all disappear with a mere chance at fate and curiosity. If only he could relive that moment, he could have treasured it more. Hey kid, you doing all right? You seem a lot quieter, Stain asked, worried for the young vigilante who seemed too preoccupied with his thoughts. It took the boy a moment before he answered, as if he heard Stain later than expected. I'm fine. Was just thinking about someone. I'll go patrol this way now. Izuku sniffled, pulling a tight, closed-eye smile before heading in the opposite direction Stain was going. Izuku leaped across the buildings, spotting a few thugs who looked like they were threatening a middle-aged. The boy swooped down, swiftly knocking two men out cold with the help of his friend, his mask that resembled an owl glinting in the darkness as he turned to the man. Are you okay? He asked softly, picking up the silver coins that fell out of the white envelope on the ground, along with an opened leather wallet containing green bills, debit cards, and a picture of a woman and a young boy. Yes, thank you so much. I didn't know what to do. I just got my salary today, and it's my son's birthday. The man adjusted his glasses, gratefully receiving the money the boy picked off the ground. Happy birthday to him. You're a good guy, Izuku said, patting the man's shoulder. The encounter reminded him of his adoptive father, which brought a wave of gloom over him. It was harder than he expected. He didn't feel this way when he discovered his mother had left him in the forest, nor during the darker moments of his past. Was it because Aizawa had been his savior? Or because he represented everything Izuku had hoped for, a family? Alright, Class 1A. Due to the recent incident with the hero killer and the striking similarities to your missing classmate, your finals will be postponed. Any questions? Midnight announced, reading from a sheet she had received earlier. The class shook their heads. Although the police had kept the incident under wraps, the students of Class 1A quickly learned about it after the head of the police department confronted two heroes in training. No one minded the postponement of finals. They were genuinely worried for their classmate and had little time to study or care about exams. Three of Izuku's closest friends were especially concerned, fearing that their friend had turned to vigilantism instead of following the heroic path he had been on. They worried for his health, and the thought weighed heavily on them throughout each lesson, mainly Todoroki, Shinso, and Katsuki. The atmosphere in Class 1A was far from healthy, alarming the teachers and even the principal. They were discussing the hero class, yet the students couldn't shake their thoughts about their missing classmate and their homeroom teacher, who had passed away so suddenly. When would these memories cease? Possibly never. Hey kid, you should get something like a job. You're just lazing around this cramped apartment during the day, Stain suggested, setting down his collection of daggers. A job? Are you crazy? Izuku replied, raising an eyebrow. They'll instantly know who I am, and I'll be all over the news as the missing student from UA. He sighed, ignoring Kaki's pleas. And I've just got the thing to keep you away from pesky reporters. Stain rummaged in a brown eco-friendly bag and pulled out a dark crimson wig. This will surely be a good disguise. He smirked, proud of himself. What about my face? Izuku asked. I'm always prepared, Stain grinned, quickly pulling out a pair of glasses and a box of medical face masks. Slap these on and tell them you're scared of germs or whatever. He pushed the bundle of items toward the teen. Will you do it? Izuku pondered for a moment before setting the items aside. Sure. Why not? Blame's on you if I get caught. He shrugged. Are you some kind of mascot connoisseur? You were so pumped while explaining this. Of course not, kid. I'm just really excited you're gonna make money. Saving people without a license doesn't get you any cash, you know? Stain reasoned, chuckling. Right? Izuku replied, laughing as he donned an outfit Stain had picked out, along with the wig, glasses, and mask for extra measures. I'll go look for jobs then. Just don't harm anyone who's not a minor, he joked, closing the thin wooden door behind him. Seriously, that kid? Stain sighed, smiling. Izuku fiddled with the end of his ivory white button-up as he waited for the cafe's manager to discuss the part-time job. The crimson wig he wore attracted more attention than he intended. He was aiming for the position of barista in this small, underground cafe. When he saw the poorly written ad, he knew he had to check it out. It was the perfect place to earn a little cash while avoiding the searching police and the nosy media. Yes, hello. You're the one who came here 10 minutes earlier, correct? I'm Tadashi Haruo, the manager of Silky Star. Pleasure meeting you. A man with auburn hair sat down across from the teen and smiled, passing a sheet to the startled Izuku. I presume you're here for the part-time job. You've already got it. We really needed another hand in this small cafe. Just fill out this form and you're all set to start tomorrow. He explained quickly. Actually, what's your name first, lad? Oh, I'm Izuno, just that. Izuku smiled awkwardly underneath his mask. No surname? That's all right, no discrimination here, Tadashi chuckled. I'll leave you here to write down the necessary information. You can get my attention once you've filled it all out. Once Tadashi left, Izuku sighed and lowered his head to focus on the paper. He opened his eyes, narrowing them slightly as the paper was blurry and the light was bright. After a few minutes of adjusting, he scribbled down his contact number and the hours and days he would like to work. Everything seemed pretty chill, which suited Izuku's tastes. Closing his eyes, he kindly told Kaki to get the manager's attention and waited. Kaki roamed away from Izuku to find Tadashi. Spotting him, Kaki tapped on his shoulder. As the manager turned around, he smiled. "May I help you?" Kaki pointed towards Izuku's direction, and Tadashi understood. The two returned to the table, and Tadashi briefly skimmed the sheet of paper before grinning at them. "Alrighty, this'll do. Are you sure you want to work every day, lad? It also says here you're fine with filling in? You'll overwork yourself." "Yes, it's fine. I have nothing to do between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Izuku smiled, standing up. "Is that all? I'll be taking my leave if there's nothing left." "You're all good to go. You'll meet your fellow coworkers tomorrow too. They're a bit busy over there." Tadashi gestured in a direction, unaware that Izuku couldn't see. "Thank you very much, sir. I'll be going now." Izuku bowed, looking a bit stiff as he turned and strode to the exit, accidentally bumping into the door before hastily going out. "I wonder what Stain will think now that I have a job." Izuku jogged back home, feeling giddy inside. He felt like a real adult now. Upon arriving, he was met with an unexpected scene. Clothes drenched in red were splattered on the floor, and Stain was washing his hands. Izuku almost stepped on the pile if Kaki hadn't alerted him. "Akaguro, you're going to stain the floor, and it'll smell everywhere. It already stinks." Izuku pinched his nose, backing away from the heavy scent. "Sorry kid. You do the house chores, and I kind of forget I shouldn't do these." Stain replied, gesturing to the pile of clothes. "Yeah, you're really forgetful." Izuku sighed. "Pick it up and throw it in the basket. After that, get out since I'll have to clean the floor." He crossed his arms. "I'm not having a bloody floor in the apartment. I also have to tell you something later." Stain raised an eyebrow before picking up the clothes and putting them in the laundry basket, soon telling Izuku that he'd be outside. Izuku opened his eyes, finally seeing objects instead of a dark void, which felt sentimental to him. His quirk had caused a lot of trouble, but he was just glad he wasn't quirkless. He picked up a rag and wiped the small puddle of blood, as well as the residue left by the dripping clothes. After washing the rag, he squeezed it dry and grabbed the basket full of clothes, rinsing and washing them with what was left of the detergent before transferring them to a different laundry basket. "Akaguro, you can come in now," he shouted, taking a seat. Izuku shut his eyes, immersing himself in the familiar void. He was getting fed up with seeing such a mundane sight. He heard the door open and the chair creaking soon after. "So what do you want to tell me, kid?" Stain asked, leaning back in the chair. "I got a job." Izuku smiled, his expression bright and full of excitement. "Really? What kind of job? A convenience store worker or something?" he joked. "No, Des. I got one as a bartender in a cafe not far from here. One of those underground ones where people like you visit." The former chuckled quietly. "I could start working tomorrow." He felt all giddy inside. "That's good, kid. I'm proud of you. You won't be a lazy teen during the mornings now." "Hey. Just kidding, but don't overwork yourself there. You still have to save people during the night," Stain reminded the teen, ruffling his poofy hair. "Of course I won't." As promised, Izuku arrived at the cafe around 6:30 a.m. the next day. He was a bit early, but it was fun. The wig was getting a bit itchy, and he would have to take off his mask when repeating orders or greeting customers. "You're the new part-timer, right? Call me Chizuwa." A guy's voice reached Izuku's ears. He offered a hand, which the green-haired boy took gratefully, thanks to Kaki, to avoid seeming awkward. "Yep, I am." "Where should I start?" Izuku asked shortly after the greeting. "You'll have to change into our uniform first. The changing room is that way." He gestured in a direction Izuku was unaware of, but Kaki would guide him. "Thank you, I'll go do that first then." Izuku smiled as he turned and walked, bumping into the door before finally opening it. Once inside, he looked for an unoccupied locker. After finding one, he discovered a neat set of clothes, a white button-up, dark green breathes, and a black apron. He quickly changed into the comfortable uniform, realizing that was why they had asked for his measurements on the form. Dusting himself off, he wore a look of triumph. "Let's start working." Izuku enthusiastically greeted customers and mentally noted their orders while Kaki helped serve. The place was mostly filled with villains, but he didn't mind since they weren't causing any harm. After a busy day filled with shattered glass cups, it was finally the end of his shift. He met most of his coworkers, who were all friendly, and their quirks were interesting too. Despite bumping into a few people and almost falling, Izuku managed to return to the apartment he shared with Stain without much trouble, thanks to Kaki. He twisted the rusty doorknob and stepped inside, with Kaki locking the door behind them. As soon as he entered, he noticed Stain wasn't there yet. Rummaging through his small bag, he put on a hoodie and grabbed the owl mask he wore from his makeshift clothing rack. It may not have looked like much, but it did the job. Izuku stepped outside again, the mask blocking his vision, allowing him to focus on his mission to help those in need. This exhausting routine continued every day. It seemed impossible for anyone to work without breaks, but he pushed through. He needed the money and felt compelled to save. Stain was unaware that Izuku was overworking himself. By the time he returned to the apartment, he was often exhausted from the orders he took and the villains he confronted. Izuku was currently tending to his daytime job, with Kaki informing him that some customers had been on their hit list for quite some time. Despite their records, they were genuinely nice people, proving that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. He was enjoying the job, and it was earning him some cash. Though tired, he wore a smile that seemed to last forever, like a frozen moment in time. He had the awkward tenderness of someone unaccustomed to being cared for, forced to improvise. It was as if he had received too much love suddenly, only to lose it all at once. But he had to persevere because he wanted to become someone people could admire, someone who would not disappear because of him. He hoped his suffering would soon cease. Eventually, Stain and Izuku found time to see each other. When they did, they hung out and laughed, enjoying the night together. Their schedules rarely aligned, making this time precious. Let's have some fun. Chapter 33. Unwanted Meeting. The fun Stain was referring to wasn't exactly what Izuku expected. He thought he would be watching his guardian confront heroes while he patrolled, but it turned out to be quite the opposite. Instead, he found himself with a bag filled with candy, as Stain had a severe sweet tooth. This innocent hangout was not what one would expect from a notorious hero killer, but who was he to judge? Izuku was waiting in a section of the big mall for Stain to finish using the restroom. Just as he was about to take a seat, someone grabbed the back of his neck, the hoodie pressing against his skin. "What a lovely coincidence, Izuku. How many years has it been?" a sickeningly raspy voice asked, one that was all too familiar. "Shigaraki?" The boy wanted to shout but instead managed a strained whisper, emotions swirling within him. "I'm touched you still remember my voice. Too bad I can't take you right now. Sensei says it won't be long before we meet again." His raspy chuckle sent shivers down Izuku's spine just as Stain returned. "Kid? Who's that?" Stain approached, eyeing the hooded figure with light blue hair and dry skin. "Looks like my time is up. We'll see you soon." Shigaraki's husky chuckle lingered as he left, leaving Stain with a confused yet concerned expression. "Should I go after him? He might tell the police." "No need, he's a villain too," Izuku replied, tugging at his sleeve. "Let's continue what we were doing, he won't ruin our mood." But perhaps Izuku should have worn a disguise after all. Class 1A was enveloped in a heavy silence, the weight of their homeroom teacher's death and the absence of a classmate pressing down on them. They were unsure if he had been kidnapped or if he simply gave up on being a hero. The appearance of a vigilante gave them a glimmer of hope, a slim chance they might see him again. Who were they to give up? They were the most promising generation of students in UA's history, and they would not sit idly by. Every member of Class 1A mattered, none were considered insignificant. "You met him?" Compress and Kurogiri widened their eyes as the new league members eavesdropped. "I saw him at the mall and chatted for a bit. I thought he was busy playing hero at that prestigious school. Maybe now that the pro hero is gone, he decided to skip class." Shigaraki shrugged, leaning his head on his hand. Does Mr. know about this? Kurogiri asked, nervousness creeping in. He had lied to protect the boy from further suffering. No, but I plan on telling him later. As planned, Shigaraki informed All for One, who seemed delighted, his mood shifting dramatically from anger over failed plans to excitement about finding his son. Wonderful, he chuckled darkly. I can finally see my boy again after so many years. Chapter 34. Creepy Coincidence. Sometimes, Izuku wished he could call himself a traitor. Destroying the peaceful life he cherished felt like the greatest sin he could commit. Yet he often felt that his father wouldn't want him to blame himself. The kindness of his father weighed heavily on his conscience. After the incident from the previous week, Izuku had become more cautious. He wore a disguise more often and limited his time out. Only at night did he feel free, donning the owl mask that had once been a dusty relic of entertainment, now a symbol for those who needed to know he was there. Currently, he was working his shift at the underground cafe, which had seen an increase in regulars since he added new items to the menu and improved his coffee-making skills. He had grown more attentive and capable, learning to create delicious treats that even the villains who frequented the cafe appreciated. The male was lively and showed no signs of disgust or disappointment towards the villains, nor did he seem to align with them. The infamous hero killer often visited the cafe and was surprisingly friendly with the gentle barista, much to the shock of any thug who overheard their conversation. Excuse me, old man, but if you're just going to chat with the cute barista, you better move aside. I'm getting hungry. A blonde girl in a school uniform stuck her tongue out, then gasped when Stain turned around. Wait, aren't you the famous hero killer, Stain? Oh my god, you're my favorite villain. She giggled, playing with a small syringe. Can I have your blood? It won't hurt. The girl moved closer, attempting to pierce Stain's bandaged skin. Whoa, if I gave you my blood, who knows what you'll do with it? I don't just give it out, he scowled. If you're here to order, then do it. He sighed, I'll wait until you're done. I don't really feel like going around and causing trouble right now. He glared at her. All right, see you. Izuku stifled a chuckle that seemed to lighten the atmosphere of the quaint cafe. Welcome to Hibiscus Bird, a cafe that caters to any personal order as long as you pay. We are very flexible in customizing your drink to your tastes. What would you like to order? He smiled, making the girl squirm in delight, holding back her excitement. I would like a red passionfruit tea with extra sugar. She glanced at Izuku's name tag, which read Izuno. Is this really the Izuku that the dry geezer mentioned? He doesn't really look like him. Maybe he's gone mad with obsession and abandonment. It's not like I could care less anyway, she thought, watching the smiling male as he began preparing her order. Ah, looks like I've got my answer, she muttered, recalling the quirk that Shigaraki mentioned his sensei had given him. HM? What was that? The boy turned towards her, smiling as he finished the drink. Ah, nothing, she replied shortly, taking the drink. I just found someone who'll be back to us soon. She waved, leaving cash on the counter as she exited the cafe. Izuku pondered the girl's words, blankly staring at the cash before swiftly stashing it in the register and taking more orders, flashing his unwavering grin. But in his life? His smile often faltered, because everything good that had happened had a dark counterpart. For some reason, the phrase that the girl had said bothered him throughout his working hours. It felt like it was referring to him, even if he thought it wasn't. He couldn't shake off the uncomfortable feeling that gnawed at him for no apparent reason. His coworkers noticed this too, from the half-filled cups of latte to pouring too much ice in chilled coffee. They were more worried than angry about his apparent distraction. Would you like to take a break? Tadashi suggested to the preoccupied male, who seemed lost in thought. It took Izuku a moment to respond, turning to face his coworker. A break? Are you sure? We still have customers, he said, alarmed, as he glanced at the line that was neither too long nor too short. I'll handle it. You need a break. You've been working hard lately. Tadashi smiled, patting Izuku's head, which surprised him. Izuku nodded and decided to head out back, occasionally bumping into walls or people. It was tiring to apologize without knowing if he had bumped into a person or an object. As he went out back, Kaki transformed into a pair of black, opaque glasses. Suddenly, Izuku felt a rope wrap around his body, causing his glasses to vanish. It felt like he had lost a part of himself, like his friend was gone. "Didn't I tell you he would come here? Man, I should be a fortune teller." The blonde girl from earlier appeared, her voice vaguely familiar to Izuku, though he couldn't be sure due to his impaired vision and Kaki's absence. "Are you sure the rope cancelled his quirk?" a calm yet intimidating voice asked. 100%, otherwise he would have escaped by now, another voice replied, deeper and rougher. Izuku felt terrified of what was happening. Everything would end if he opened his eyes, but he didn't want to be labeled a killer again. Yet one voice stood out among the rest, stirring something buried deep within him. Even without knowing what the male looked like, Izuku was terrified of his figure and his voice. It was raspy and dry, two things that brought back memories he wished would fade away. The blue hair his father described and the four fingers surrounding his neck made him shudder in fear. "Welcome back, Izuku." His eyes held all kinds of emotions as Izuku's pupils darted across the familiar figures, all wearing blissful expressions. They were happy that he was back in their grasp. The atmosphere was tense and silent until Shigaraki spoke. "So, are we gonna keep him awake? Or just make him pass out?" "I don't really mind. As long as I can get his blood," Toga giggled, caressing Izuku's petrified face. Izuku's muffled voice annoyed the blue-haired male, his eyes twitching as he scratched his neck. "Drop dead." As Izuku lost consciousness, his heart pounding loudly, he hoped someone would notice he was gone. Stain would, but what could he do to find him? The grown villain would be unable to act upon discovering the boy's disappearance. Disappearing was Izuku's specialty. He had been abandoned and kidnapped, left to fend for himself. Despite being only 14, his life had been anything but ordinary. He would have wished for a quiet and peaceful life over this any day. "You sounded so lame, Shiggy," Toga commented, sighing heavily. "That sounded cool, don't lie." He scowled. "Let's go back already. We got what we came for," Shigaraki said, making the others nod obediently. Izuku wanted to flutter his eyes open the moment he regained consciousness, but he feared he might hurt someone in the process. He wasn't a murderer, just an accident-prone teen. It was the right move, for there was a mirror awaiting him. "Nasensei, why'd you request a mirror?" "I don't get it." Shigaraki scrunched his nose in confusion. "Think harder, Tamir. His quirk is reflective and cannot be subdued. It's his loss if the boy dares to use his quirk on me." He smiled, his dark scars lifting, making him look even more unsettling. Shigaraki nodded slowly, eyeing Izuku, who showed no signs of waking up. "Let's play the waiting game then." Stain wasn't expecting the apartment to be so dim and scentless when he first walked in. It was already very late, yet the boy he considered close to a son was nowhere in sight. He quickly left the apartment, wearing his boots, and ran to the cafe where Izuku worked. His heart raced with fear. Stain, a ruthless villain who had taken down countless foes, could not believe his eyes when he saw the cafe was dark and closed. It didn't look like it had just closed either. He paced back and forth in front of the cafe, unsure of what to do. Did the teen finally realize his heroic path? Or had something happened? He didn't want to know, but he had to. Izuku had become his responsibility, and he needed to find him. Stain briskly walked through alleys and inside buildings, yet there was no sign of the green-haired teen. He climbed a few buildings to see if perhaps Izuku was walking back to their apartment, but it was late, and only a few brave souls were out and about. The thought of asking for a hero's help crossed his mind, but he quickly dismissed it in anger. He despised those fakes. But maybe, just maybe, they could help. Chapter 37, Safety First. Stain hesitated as he approached a place filled with people he despised. He knew that if UA's teaching staff spotted him, he would be arrested immediately. He wanted to believe they would at least listen to him, but his low expectations of heroes made him consider finding Izuku himself. What if it was too late? Stain knew that one hero killer wouldn't be enough to save Izuku. The boy was strong and resilient, but it would take someone even stronger to kidnap him. What if Izuku managed to escape? Stain's doubts faded as he caught sight of the prestigious school. Could he trust the heroes to hear him out? It couldn't hurt to try. Is he still playing dead? I'm getting bored. Toga, the only blonde in the group, sighed heavily. The mirror in front of Izuku had vanished, but he remained motionless. Is there any way we could wake him up? Maybe poke him a little? She added with a mischievous giggle. We won't do that, at least not yet. It looks like it's going to take a while, let's leave him for now. It's not like he can do anything right now, Shigaraki shrugged, turning to exit the room. As soon as Izuku sensed silence, he summoned all his strength to try to free himself from the ropes. He wished he had watched those helpful videos on escaping such situations. They seemed useless now. On his second attempt, he struggled against the ropes, but they held firm. Opening his eyes, he realized his quirk was inactive, likely due to the restraints. He felt a strong urge to relax, a habit he had picked up from his father. Slowly, he stood up, nearly tripping over the tight ropes. He moved quietly, hoping they wouldn't return too soon. HM? Seems like someone had a good nap. Stain barged into UA, easily bypassing the security. He figured even the heroes could lend an ear, perhaps even All Might. We've got the hero killer on the premises. Lockdown. The announcement echoed through the school. Teachers hurried to secure their doors, while pro-heroes rushed outside, confusion evident on their faces as Stain revealed himself. Before you do anything, I have information about the missing 1A student, he shouted, drawing the attention of those closest to Izuku. Stain strolled with his hands in his pockets. Let's talk in your office, shall we? Nizu sipped his tea. Please disclose the information about Midoriya right now, he demanded, addressing the restrained hero killer, with All Might standing behind him. I took care of the kid for a while. He even had a part-time job, but then he disappeared. I suspect he might have been kidnapped. The blue guy we met before probably did it, Stain explained, his tone calm. Why did you approach and sneak past UA's security? Instead of seeking comrades, why did you come for the beings you usually kill? Nizu asked, setting down his teacup. Everyone's useless. I figured you would do a better job. I care about that kid, all right? Stain sighed, leaning back in his seat. Why did you let him get kidnapped? All Might slammed the desk, cracking it under his strength. I didn't. The kid was capable of defending himself. Don't underestimate him, Stain replied. It's possible those guys are strong, or his quirk was cancelled. Boo. All Might began to argue, but Nizu interrupted. All Might, please schedule a meeting with the other pro-heroes. We have a student to save. Chapter 38, A Rescue Mission. Izuku's eyes widened as he recognized old allies, along with a few new faces. The ropes binding him were strong enough to cancel both of his quirks, but they were also a dangerous restraint. Questions flooded his mind. How did they acquire such a weapon? How far were they willing to go to get him back? He tried to back away but stumbled over his own feet, the ropes restricting his movements. His sturdy frame was ensnared, leaving no chance for escape. It was still foreign for the boy to freely look around. The last time he had the chance didn't end as well as it was supposed to. His father had slanted, blood-red eyes and a delicate expression as he looked at his son. Though his eyes turned hazy, flowing into an ebony hue, there was a ghost of a smile present as his father slumped against him, the body gradually chilling and his pulse fading away. Izuku was abruptly brought back from his daydream by a sudden kick that stirred his insides, making him cough harshly. The kick was from none other than Shigaraki. What are you spacing out for? Cat caught your tongue? He chuckled with ill intentions. He has tape over his mouth, idiot. The blonde lady, Toga, rolled her eyes, slyly tracing Izuku's jaw before ripping apart the strong tape covering his mouth. Too bad. She dropped the sticky piece of tape. I thought his lips were going to bleed from the friction. Did I go too soft? She pondered, losing herself in her own world. Izuku's lips burned. He was sure they almost peeled. He was lucky they didn't, though his skin started to sweat, realizing he was stuck with more than one unpredictable person. Shigaraki was already more than enough, but with the addition of Toga? This was going to be rough, especially now that he was quirkless. Nizu? How are we going to find a kid without a trace? Do we even have any leads? Shouldn't we keep this investigation private with only a selected number of pro-heroes? Toshinori blurted out, feeling quite stumped. They weren't about to go find one of their students blindly. This case was always tricky to solve, and he was left in a daze due to Nizu's lack of details. Calm down, All Might. We're going to scrutinize every place our student has gone to. You mentioned he had a job, hero killer, Stain? Nizu turned to look at the restrained villain. It was the first time Nizu felt perplexed. He wasn't the type to be surprised, but one of the most wanted villains surrendering himself to help find a missing student was confounding. Yes, he worked in a small cafe where civilians and a few villains frequent. He always wore a disguise since he didn't want to get caught by the police. Or by you guys, Stain admitted, his thin mouth drooping. He always worked a bit too much, tiring himself out. I was concerned for the kid. It wasn't like I was that poor. He had a thought that Izuku was working so hard to avoid being in debt to him, but Stain was fine with the young one residing in his apartment. He appreciated the presence of someone who didn't hate him for his ideals. It would be best to discuss that with the other pro-heroes. It was a part of the city that not many patrolled, Nizu said, sipping his seemingly bottomless tea. He would be lying if he said he didn't find the kid intriguing. Izuku's performance in the sports festival showcased that he had both brains and brawn. His fight with another promising student left Nizu with theories. It was as if the teen dissociated from his quirk, resembling a villain trying to defeat their foe. There also seemed to be the presence of two quirks. The one he had admitted was linked to how his eyes were always closed, along with the black inky-like substance that appeared when he used it. Similar to the young Todoroki, who possessed both fire and ice. Nizu had been informed that the boy was absent due to his adoptive father's death, but now that he was aware of such a problem, he felt the weight of responsibility as the principal of UA, the school that had Izuku as their student. One way or another, he wanted to bring the promising student back to his academy. Chapter 39. Revenge. Leave us alone, Shigaraki glared behind him as they ushered away and closed the door. A heavy silence settled between the two. One was plotting an escape, while the other pondered the reason for the betrayal. Izuku, Shigaraki began, grasping Izuku's shoulder tightly, causing him immense pain. A strangled cry escaped Izuku's lips, and tears welled in his eyes. Why'd you go? We were so kind to you. It's the same question for Dabi. I know you two were close, but to be an accomplice in your escape? I didn't expect that. Then I see you on the news flaunting your victory. He released Izuku's shoulder. Have you forgotten your origin? Amusing. Izuku remained silent, trying to process Shigaraki's words, which were usually laced with malice but now carried a sense of betrayal. He was too focused on the pain radiating from his shoulder to respond. Come on, reply. At least give me an excuse. Shigaraki shouted. Did you ever think I liked it here? Izuku breathed, struggling to bear the pain. I never wanted any of this. His voice was barely audible, strained by the agony he felt. Then why did you never say anything? You think I'm going to believe that pathetic reasoning? I wanted an excuse, not a half-hearted lie. Shigaraki seethed, his frustration evident. You think I've never said anything? Izuku managed to reply, his shoulder aching, the ropes binding him too tight. Ever since, I always wanted to get out of that miserable place. Toshinori, could you schedule a meeting with a few of the pro-heroes I've listed? I want you to inform them about Izuku's situation. For now, the hero killer and I will visit Izuku's former job. Nizu stood up, his feet making a soft thud. Will you please lead the way then? Stain nodded quickly. All Might hesitated for a moment before speaking. May I ask why only the two of you? Shouldn't it be reasonable for me to join? Nizu smiled subtly. You'll be too busy contacting the pro-heroes. Worry not, I believe Stain's attitude towards Izuku is genuine. All Might thought he saw the hero killer caught off guard for just a moment. This is a rather quiet area. Is this the cafe? Nizu remarked. It looks quite nice for an environment like this. Checking the back would make the most sense, he added, and he and Stain began to move a few steps. You don't really talk much, do you? Nizu asked. No, not in front of heroes, especially, Stain replied, continuing to walk ahead before stopping. This is the back. When I saw the cafe closed, I didn't think of anywhere else he could have gone. Stain sighed. Well then, let's look for a bit here, shall we? Nizu suggested, and Stain merely nodded. They began to search. Mr. Nizu, I don't think there's anything here, Stain said after checking a few nooks and crannies. Now, don't say that. I found something here. Nizu squatted down, picking up a small old phone-like device. Isn't this a tracking device? Chapter 40, Dead End. Isn't this a tracking device? Back to before Izuku got kidnapped. Kaki was suspicious of the girl who looked at him and Izuku with a gaze reminiscent of his past. I just found someone who'll be back to us soon, she giggled. Yeah, no. That definitely sounds suspicious. Kaki grabbed an emergency tracking device he had prepared while Izuku wasn't paying attention, for situations where he might not be there for Izuku. He had intended to hand it over to someone, but he never found the chance. As Kaki remained on watch, Izuku clocked out and left through the back door, as most employees did. Acting quickly, Kaki managed to sneak away the tracking device without anyone noticing, even Izuku. The tracker was hidden on his hip, and he was confident no one would check there. Kaki felt a familiar darkness surround him as Izuku was completely bound in that rope. Why is there a tracking device here? Nizu gasped, causing Stain's concern to deepen. He truly cared about Izuku. He was someone he could call his student. His eyes focused on the faint green dot blinking at him, a reminder of Izuku's pure, green eyes. Whether Izuku ran away or was kidnapped, he didn't deserve any of this. Nizu quickly dialed All Might's number. All Might, please tell the heroes to come to the location I'll be sending. Please be quick. We've possibly found a lead that might lead us to Midoriya. Really? Thank God. Most of the heroes you've requested have already arrived, so we'll be there shortly, All Might responded. Nizu could faintly hear the voices of the heroes he was most acquainted with. As he ended the call, Nizu typed as fast as he could with his paws. They decided to meet in Yokohama after Nizu and Stain deduced that the boy was somewhere in that city. The two waited for the heroes to arrive, which wasn't long. Nizu had requested Best Jeanist, Edge Shot, Midnight, and Kamui Woods to assist them. They chose a secluded place to meet, wanting to avoid disturbing any civilians and drawing unnecessary attention at night. Nizu showed everyone the small tracking device, which looked rather cheap and old, according to Midnight, but at least it did the job. The tracking device was duplicated by one of the pro hero's sidekicks and given to each hero present. They set off to search in small groups, except for All Might, who went alone. Each group took different routes, aiming for the same destination. All of them arrived around the same time, with a few groups arriving just a few minutes late due to villains. However, that wasn't their concern at the moment. All Might remembered this place. It was where Aizawa, or Eraserhead, had found the student and his sidekick, or so he was told. Without much hesitation, All Might broke down the door with his fist, creating a loud crack that echoed in the quiet area, where few people lingered. It was suspicious to see someone breaking down a door, but the onlookers were either too tired to care or too inebriated to notice. What they saw shocked them. Izuku was nowhere to be found, and there was no sign of life inside the bar. The light was still blinking in the same spot where the tracker indicated. Where is he?